Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. It's an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, my international friends, joining us to talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news, a little bit of television, some other stuff as well. And it is great to have you here on this Thursday, or as one of my guests here, Aaron Cummings, calls it, No Pants Thursdays. We got Aaron's Cummings here. Aaron, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm having a hot flash right now. So for all you other ladies out there that know what I'm talking about, I'm just going to ice myself. But I got a great night's sleep, as I was telling you guys. So I feel amped and pumped and no caffeine, but still ready to rock.
And also sitting right over here, we got Chris Carr. Chris, how are you?
I'm doing great. Man, I got to watch one of my favorite movies last night when I got home, The Saint. It just popped up in my
Val
Netflix.
Kilmer?
Yes. It popped up on Netflix and I was like, I do want to watch that. Wonderful.
And then
Gosh,
away you went.
it's so good. Guys, if you haven't seen The Saint, go watch The Saint.
Isn't Elizabeth Shue in that?
She is.
Ah, that's right. I remember it was Elizabeth Shue in that.
Babe.
All right. Hey, listen, guys, we do have a lot of things that we're going to talk about here today. So we're going to hop into our main topics here in a second. But before we even get started, why don't you guys take a quick second and do a couple of things. Number one, if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, what are you waiting for? Go on over there, click the subscribe button, keep up to date on everything we got going on here on the channel. Also, if you enjoy these types of videos and these types of discussions on these sorts of topics, click that thumbs up button for the video. And also make sure, even when the video is done, guys, keep the conversation going. Jump down into the comments section below. Leave your thoughts on any or all the topics we discuss here. Or if you want your comment or question read on the show here, use the super chat feature. It's a great way to guarantee that your question or comment gets read in a video. Also, it's a great way to support the channel as well. And we thank you for all you guys who do that. A little bit of house cleaning, guys. We had some leftover questions that came in yesterday that were supposed to be done in a companion video yesterday. My companion video time got completely ate up by a number of things that came up, so I was not able to do the companion video yesterday. So those of you who are waiting for your last couple of questions to get answered, I'm going to include those in with the companion video I'm going to do later today. So if those of you who are looking saying, hey, where's the companion video from yesterday? Don't worry, those questions will get looped in or bunched in with the questions later today as well. All right, with that down, let's get into our main topics today. How do we select our main topics here on the John Campea Show? Well, it's really rather simple. You see, you guys come up with them by simply going over to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you guys get there, fill out the form with your topic or question, hit submit, and then maybe, just maybe, you might see your topic featured here on the John Campea Show. With that down, Chris, what is our first main topic today?
We're first hearing from Hank Nagy. Top of the day to you all. With Venice and Toronto now pretty much behind us, it looks like just about every major Oscar season film has screened to one degree or another. We've still got a couple of months before Oscar nominations, but now that we're hearing about all the possible contenders, which ones would you now say are the ones that will seriously contend for the Best Picture prize at the Oscars? I'm so excited to talk about this. What are your picks, you guys?
Well, yeah, we are getting into that now time of the year where most of the films, pretty much all of them, have been screened to one degree or another. There's still a couple that have not for either at festivals, but they are on the way. Now, I was able to, I got on the phone, I was talking with one friend of mine who works at one of the studios, and the studios are usually pretty tuned in on which ones of their films will be kind of contending come Oscar time. So my one guy I know, he was talking to me about the one or two films that they feel extremely confident about from their studio, which got me thinking, so I called, a contact of mine at another studio, say, wait, just out of curiosity, which ones are you guys feeling really good about? I mean, I obviously all anonymously, but they told me one or two, called another friend at another studio, blah. And, then we compile that with looking at the reviews that are coming out, how the films look, what the festival reactions have been, and we are starting to get, is it a little premature? Yeah, maybe. But we are starting to get to that time of the year now where the studios are getting a grasp on what they feel, which films of theirs they feel have a legit shot at a Best Picture nomination. The festivals are starting to reveal which ones are actually above the rest. The reviews are coming out for a lot of them. And so without having seen a bunch of the films myself, I feel like we've been able to start to put together here a fairly decent list of what we think will actually be. We're starting to get a picture about when the Oscar nominations come out, what those nominations are probably going to look like. Now, this list could evolve a little bit as we get a few more months into the year, but I think we're starting to get a picture. And I'm going to tell you right now, take it to the bank, mark it down in your calendars. set it to the stars. I'm going to tell you what the 9 films are going to be nominated for Best Picture this year are. I'm going to tell you the 9. And it's going to be 9. It's not going to be 8. It's not going to be 10. It's going to be 9. And here are the ones that are going to be nominated. Now, these aren't necessarily the ones that I think are the ones that should be nominated. Because remember, there's even a couple of these that I haven't seen yet. But just in talking to the studios, seeing the festival reactions, seeing the critic reactions, and seeing kind of like the prestige level of a lot of these films, these are the ones that I think you can take to the bank are going to get nominated. Here we go. We're going to get started with this. Number 1, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. Look, we knew as soon as we heard about this film, it had a decent, first of all, Tom Hanks, royalty of Hollywood. Second of all, Mr. Rogers is a hugely significant figure right now, especially coming off the heels of the documentary that I was out last year that should have won Best Documentary at the Academy Awards, and it didn't even get nominated. It even confused the Oscars, because when the Oscars put together their advertising campaign and their montage clips of the films that are nominated, they included scenes from Won't You Be My Neighbor, the documentary, and then it didn't get nominated. Anyway, huge thing. Ford v. Ferrari, I think we all knew. The studio's incredibly big on this. The festival guys have been incredibly big on this. Everything we're hearing about that's going to be one of your nominees. The Farewell, to a lot of people, this is the best film of the year. Not mine, but it's in my top 3 right now. The Farewell, to a lot of people. By the way, I just want you to know, yes, I did misspell. It's called The Farewell, which is a little known Indonesian film, not to be confused with the Chinese. The Farewell is in there. And yeah, it's going to get nominated. A film I had my doubts about because all the other studios passed on it was The Irishman. Now, it was about 2 months ago, you guys will remember, that I had a friend talk to me saying, John, what you're not considering here is maybe the studios passing on The Irishman had nothing to do with what they thought would be the quality of it. Maybe if you look at it, it probably wasn't going to make a lot of money in the box office at all. Maybe that's why they passed on, and it's not a quality issue. And I went, you know what? That's a great point. And then a lot of you guys wrote in about that as well. And now that we're actually hearing from some people that are getting inside looks at The Irishman, it's kind of look, Scorsese is an Oscar favorite. You got De Niro and Pacino and Pesci. You've got, a royalty lineup in there.
Harvey Keitel, all the usual suspects of that.
They're all in there. So what I'm hearing is that's probably going to be one. The other one, they just dropped the first teaser for it the other day, and hardly anybody knew anything about it. Now Lionsgate is actually talking about it, and I've got some friends at Lionsgate there. It really does look like Bombshell's going to take one of those spots, which is funny because a month ago none of us were even talking about this film, and then all of a sudden that trailer is, wow, that looks powerful, whatever it is, and then we start hearing, oh wait a minute, this is like an Oscar play. That one's probably going to get it. This one's going to make a lot of people unhappy because there are a bunch of people out there who don't like Rian Johnson, but whatever. It's right now got 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. The people at the festivals are crowing over it. A number of directors that I know who have had a chance to see, directors not involved with Knives Out, who have had a chance to see a screening of it, are saying to them it's the best film of the year, Knives Out. Knives Out I'm thinking is going to get one of those 9 spots. The Joker. Look, I've been crowing about The Joker since the day they announced it at Comic-Con in 2018. I went nuts for this. I think it's a great idea. The people involved behind the scenes, in front of the camera. We're probably going to see Joaquin Phoenix. I don't know if he'll win an Academy Award for it because I haven't seen it yet. But for all the signs are pointing. Now, not every critic is liking this film. It's about 4 out of every 5 critics do. But the thing you got to understand is, and we said this after we saw the first trailer, this is clearly a movie that is not going to appeal to everybody. When you go that kind of heavy, it's not going to work for everybody. And that's perfectly fine. And so we see that. That's why right now the Joker's hovering around 80% on Rotten Tomatoes, but it won the Golden Lion. The last number of films that won the Golden Lion Award at the Venice Film Festival did go on to either win or be nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards. I think that trend continues. Just Mercy. Look, we were hearing all about this movie and how much the studio believed in it before we ever saw the trailer. And then we saw the trailer. It's like, yeah, it's living up to the hype. Word is that thing's going to be in there, so I believe that's going to be in it. And the one movie on this list that I have seen and don't believe it belongs on the list is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I think it's a good movie. I think but it is not in my top 5 or 6 Quentin Tarantino films. I thought there was too much wrong with the film. Even though I enjoyed it, I like it. It gets a thumbs up from me. Is it a Best Picture nominee? To me, no. But the fact of the matter is this: the Academy, an Academy, a 7,000 voting member Academy, all working in the Hollywood movie business, love them movies about the Hollywood movie business, and they love Quentin Tarantino. We've seen that in years past. The Academy loves Quentin Tarantino, and I do too. Who doesn't? I don't think it belongs there, but I think you can take it to the bank that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is going to be one of those films. So just to recap here, these ones, again, I'm not saying these ones that I think should be. I'm just saying, I think you're going to see Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, Ford v Ferrari, The Farewell, The Irishman, Bombshell, Knives Out, The Joker, Just Mercy, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. That's what I think we're going to see. Aaron, of course we're just speculating. Sure. That's what sports fans and movie fans, and that's what we do here. But again, I feel like we're hitting that time of the year where we're starting, the blurriness is starting to come into focus a little bit about what, when we get down to it, are going to be the films that get nominated. That's why I'm thinking now. I didn't ask you to pull out a full 10. I just wanted iron lock guarantees from you that out of the 9 or 10 that can get nominated this year, take these 5 to the bank. What were the 5 that you came up with?
Well, again, I completely agree with you. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, that is the one for sure that you can just lock it in, whether it is one of those films that is that should be or it should not be. It doesn't really matter because it will be. A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, I'm going to tell you, I started to watch this trailer and within 3 seconds, I had tears in my eyes.
Yep, me too.
All the feels, we're feeling all the feels. And so there's no possible way that I think anybody's going to be able to watch this movie and not walk away from it just such an emotional mess. And then, of course, you have Tom Hanks, who the Academy also loves.
Yeah.
He is the Academy darling. So I think that's a guaranteed winner. I said Little Women, and here's why. I haven't seen it. It might be garbage. I don't know. It's getting a lot of really good reviews. But
yeah, it is.
One of the things that I looked at when I was trying to figure out who my 5 were going to be was not only films that had a good pedigree, but also films that rounded out the entire list of nominees.
Right.
You can't have too many films like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. You can't have too many films that are period pieces. You can't have too many films that are biopics. And so with a biopic like Once Upon a Time a biopic such as A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, I think Little Women not only fulfills that period piece genre of the obscure movie that most people are not going to run out and go see, but it has Greta Gerwig as the director, who, as we know, was an Oscar nominee for Lady Bird and got a lot of enthusiasm and excitement. You have Meryl Streep and Laura Dern and Timothy Chalamet. It's got a really strong,
and she's working with her Lady Bird muse,
Saoirse Ronan. Yeah. So that's the thing is I think that's definitely going to be one that we should keep on talking about. I'm really excited about The Pope. I cannot pronounce the director's name from he's the director from City of God. He's a Brazilian director. City of God, if you don't remember that, go back and watch it. It's brilliant. Also written by Anthony McCartan, who wrote Bohemian Rhapsody. So you have a good pedigree there. Anthony Hopkins as Benedict, with Jonathan Pryce coming in as the new Pope Francis. I think that's going to be a very exciting one, sort of playing on the period piece, but in very recent history about something that there was a lot of stuff going on underneath that I think people will be very excited about. And again, it has that pedigree. Bombshell, I think, is also a lock. You just look at the people that are involved with that, from Jonathan Lithgow as Roger Ailes to Academy Award winner Charlize Theron, Academy Award winner Nicole Kidman, Academy Award nominee Margot Robbie. That's a really good one too.
And I'll tell you what, Lionsgate is they feel very confident. Like they believe it's a 100% thing that this film of theirs is going to be nominated. So that's how they're looking at it right now.
I went back and rewatched the teaser, which I'm not even going to call it a trailer. I don't think it is a trailer because
you don't. More of an announcement teaser, really.
I mean, you don't even know where these women are, except that they're all going to the second floor in an elevator until they walk past the Fox News sign. And then you're like, oh shit! Right. Like it's just the teaser. I mean, I have goosebumps on my arms right now because I'm thinking about that teaser. I cannot wait for this movie to come out, and yeah, all indications are pointing towards Oscar.
I still don't believe that's Charlize Theron in that trailer. Still don't believe it. They can tell that to me all they want.
It's a deep fake.
It's oh my God, it just does not look like that. So anyway, Chris, I wanted to throw this over to you too and kind of get your thoughts on this. Like, look, we don't know. But it is starting to come into picture. And if you had to say, hey, everybody, Like out of the 10 potential spots, whether it's 8, 9, or 10, take these 5 to the bank. These are the ones that are going to be on that list. Which ones would you say those are?
I put the Farewell on there. Aquafina is
Also
having a
Farewell,
moment.
because I
The
just copied
Farewell.
and pasted my
Everyone
spelling
liking the
mistake over,
Farewell.
by the way.
The Farewell, I think, is definitely going to be nominated. Not only is Aquafina having a moment, not only are we hearing this is a wonderful movie and that it's powerful, it is a universal theme that everyone can connect to. Death and family values and connecting with other generations. I think that is definitely going to make the list. I think that Knives Out is going to be on there. And some of you, I've already seen you in the comments, have been like, Knives Out is not the kind of movie the Academy would nominate. There have been all kinds of crazy, fun comedy and thrillers that have been nominated for things
Absolutely.
in the past. Kevin Kline won for A Fish Called Wanda, y'all. Okay? Like, things can happen. I would love an Agatha Christie-esque whodunit to be up there. I like to have some fun around award season, or as I like to call it, a season of hard to watch. Give me some fun things while I'm watching my screeners. Don't make me watch all of this stuff that makes me want to just pop as many Wellbutrin as I possibly can. You know, I want something fun in there. And it looks
Speaking of
well
which,
done.
your next pick.
My next pick. Speaking of Wellbutrin.
Speaking of fun.
Bombshell. Of course that's going to be nominated. How confident do you have to be in your film that your teaser is just silence
Yeah.
and stares? I mean, come on. And none of us will shut up about it. It's so good. It's that powerful. That's going to be incredibly interesting. Stacked cast. So good. Just Mercy, we were talking about that just last week. That looks like another powerful film. Michael B. Jordan is an excellent performer. You know, I think that's going to be a wonderful story. And that plays to what Aaron was talking about, too, of a period piece, of something based on true events. That usually is something that we see at these award shows. One of those kinds of stories gets a nomination. And lastly, and I don't even like it, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, because it's the kind of self-masturbatory Tarantino crap that everybody loves except for me. But man, Hollywood loves, like you were saying, to just watch more stuff about Hollywood and be like, aren't we great? Don't we have a fun industry?
Hollywood loves that's La La. Although I did like La La Land. I didn't think it should win Best Picture, but I was all for La La Land getting a nomination as well. But again, it was a big, a Hollywood movie about Hollywood life. Isn't that great?
LA Confidential. I mean,
Oh yeah. I also like that one too. I like
Yes,
that one
but
too,
that's
yeah.
the thing. So if you're going to learn anything from today's episode, it's this. If you want to be nominated for an Academy Award, just write a movie about Hollywood, and there you go.
It needs to be about Hollywood.
Has
It
to be
needs to
about-
be set in like the 1970s or something where we go, that's not right now.
or the 1940s.
Yes.
Yes.
Or an ode to Agatha Christie. I think that's
An
going
ode
to
to
be the
Agatha
other.
Christie.
That's going to be the other thing that comes out
Put
this year.
Tom Hanks in
You know,
it.
I actually have one more that
sure.
has not come up, and I'm intrigued by it. The Good Liar with Helen Mirren and Ian McKellen.
and Magneto. Yep.
Yeah,
They featured that at CinemaCon this year. And Rob and I saw this like 8-minute preview they played for it at CinemaCon in April. And it's like, this is either, I remember Rob and I said this is either going to be really boring, or this might be one of the greatest things we've ever seen. It just had that sort of feel to it. You know what I mean?
I think it's kind of going to be one of the greatest things we've ever seen because, let's be honest, Helen Mirren and Ian McKellen are super smoking hot, sexy 25-year-olds trapped in these more mature, sophisticated British bodies. And what I love is in the trailer when Ian McKellen is walking along the subway platform and he takes the tip of his umbrella and points the camera in the opposite direction and then uses the hook of his umbrella to trip the guy and he falls in. And I think we're also in this period where a lot of people who are watching movies have baby boomer parents who are of that age, and we can relate to the idea of my mom is, a widow or she's single and she's met this charismatic guy and he's come along and I don't really know what he's up to. I mean, it is something that even though, yes, Helen Mirren's character is worth like 3 million pounds or whatever, it's still, did I say pounds? What year is this? Euros. Do they, I don't
They still use pounds?
do they use? I don't know. But I'm really intrigued by this movie, and I didn't want to put it in my top 5 because I'm not that confident about it. However, I won't be surprised if, given the pedigree of the people involved, if it were able to sneak in there.
Yeah, those are for sure.
I think this is
noms.
another one we got to have to keep an eye on. June Ho. I think it's Junho Bong. Anyway, his film Parasite, which has been getting a lot of festival buzz. And it's won a number of awards already. And this could be one of those years, because every once in a while the Academy likes slipping in a foreign film, a little seen foreign film. One of my all-time favorite films, Life is Beautiful by Roberto Benigni, was one of those.
Roma,
like things like that. I think Parasite, there's a chance. Don't count out Parasite at this point either. Anyway, the question here, guys, is what do you think? As we're starting to see, the clouds are starting to lift now a little bit. We're starting to get a picture because of all the festival play and the studios conference, stuff like that. What would you say are some of the films that you think you can take to the bank that will be nominated for Best Picture? I want to know what you guys think about that. Jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, with that down out of the way, let's move on to main topic number 2. Chris, what is our second main topic today?
This is from Mario Lozano. Greetings to the whole team. The other day you mentioned the possible contenders for the Oscar in the visual effects category, and you mentioned The Lion King. That movie, I have my reservations because there was only one real shot. Would it qualify as an animated film? If so, it's not effects, would be more animation, so it would not deserve to be considered with the other movies. Greetings and tell me your thoughts. So basically what we're asking here is, can The Lion King be nominated for an animation spot?
Well, it's not.
And can we do a
as a visual
spot?
effects spot? Yeah. Should it be considered? And it's funny because we mentioned the other day that, Robert and I both said that we feel that Lion King is probably the front runner, and there's a lot of people in the industry who are feeling the Lion King is probably the front runner for best visual effects. Now, whether you love a movie or don't love a movie, it's irrelevant. We're talking about whether the visual effects are great. Remember, everybody, Suicide Squad won an Academy Award. Mm-hmm. It wasn't for the quality of the movie; it was for the quality of that. I think it was either hair and makeup or costuming. I can't remember which one, but it was great on that level, and that's what we're talking about here. But I've had a lot of people writing in and saying, well, wait a minute. It's an animated film. Shouldn't it be disqualified for best visual effects if it is an animated film? Well, there's a couple things you got to keep in mind here. Number one, there are still visual effects in animated films. And you can make the argument, if you're going to say animation shouldn't be taken into consideration, well then, Avengers Infinity War or Endgame shouldn't be nominated because a lot of the visual effects in that is just animation that's overlaid on top of some live action footage. And sometimes a lot of the frames we're looking at in movies like Endgame and Infinity War are all animated and all visual effects. But what you're seeing is still there. You got to understand this. A team of artists came together and put together imagery that convinced us we were looking through the lens of a camera at a real world. There are still people who think when they saw Lion King, it was real animals that they pulled a babe in the city. Mm-hmm. They think it was just real animals that they just animated the mouth. No. The whole thing. Well, the skies, that sky was fake. Well, the dirt they're walking on, that's just written. No. That's all animated. Well, what about the water? That was real water. They just dropped. No. Animated. It is an animated film, but it is nonetheless a bunch of artists taking imagery and convincing the audience that what they were looking at was actually real and immersing them in the movie. And on that level, it absolutely counts. And by the way, animated films do qualify and are eligible to be nominated for Best Visual Effects. As a matter of fact, it has happened not once, but twice. It has happened twice in Oscar history. The most recent time that happens with Kubo and the Two Strings, and then I believe it was The Nightmare Before Christmas. I think it was The Nightmare Before Christmas before that. But anyway, two animated films have been nominated for best visual effects before. They are eligible, and they should be eligible because a visual effect is a visual effect. Whether what's layered behind the effect is a real camera shot or other frames of animation, it doesn't really matter. And what they pulled off in Lion King, whether you love the movie like I do, or hate the movie like some people didn't like it at all, and that's fine, you cannot deny that what they did was, look, even just 4 years ago, we couldn't have possibly imagined a movie that looked like this. We couldn't have even imagined it. Like, let alone 10 years ago, 15 years ago, this movie is a triumph for visual effects. In as much as that, while I don't like the Star Wars prequels and the Phantom Menace, that movie was a triumph for moving visual effects ahead, and I believe Lion King is that as well. So, number one, should it be considered? Absolutely, but more importantly, does it even qualify? Is it eligible since it is an animated film? Actually, according to the rules, yes, because it's happened 2 other times in history. Aaron, when we're looking, and I know you love the movie, but setting aside our love for the movie, as you look at something like this, regardless of what the rules say, if a film is entirely done with visual effects, I mean, that's one way you can look at it. It's not just a movie with some visual effects, it is all visual effects. Mm-hmm. But should a movie like this, if it's considered animated, is there an argument to be made here that maybe it shouldn't qualify for visual effects, or do you think the rules have it right and they should qualify?
I don't even understand why this is a question, because the way that I look at best animation is the same way that I look at best picture and best foreign film. So you have this category. Sorry, I should take best picture out because that is all encompassing. But I look at it as if it's best foreign film. It is a category, a genre of film that is very specific. And then within that, it's also eligible for other awards. You would never say, oh, well, that's eligible for best foreign film, so it definitely shouldn't be eligible for best sound mixing too. That doesn't make any sense. If it has the best sound mixing, you would nominate it for the best sound mixing. And so with The Lion King, it fits into the category of an animated film because it is.
Visual effects, you mean?
No,
okay.
Animation. It is an animated film using CGI.
Right.
I watched this whole YouTube video. I watched a whole YouTube video last night on the history of animation and how we went from 2D, which is the traditional Disney films, Snow White, Cinderella, blah, 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 into the 3D where you have Pixar and whatever, and then also into the CGI. And how CGI not only can be used in animation, but also in live action films. But it doesn't mean that it's not an animated film. So it's clearly an animated film. We know that that's not up for debate. But it's also utilizing visual effects. There's no reason why it can't be counted as both. I don't really understand the question, I guess. Like, why is this a question? Just because it's animated using special effects that it can't be nominated for special effects? Can you explain this to me, John? Am I missing something?
Well, I mean, I think the way some people are looking at it is the notion that as an animated film, animation shouldn't be considered a visual effect. But what I think they're missing here is that much of the visual effects today is just a little bit of animation layered over some live action, but it's animation nonetheless. We were talking about, like, most of the visual effects in Infinity War and Endgame are just animation techniques. Mm-hmm. They just do animation.
Yeah.
Lion King just does a hell of a lot more of it. So I don't think doing more of it should disqualify you, and something that does less of it should qualify.
Right, like I wouldn't say that Avengers Endgame could be nominated for Best Animation,
right,
just because there's animation in it, but I think that,
exactly,
given that the majority of The Lion King, that the entirety of The Lion King minus that one shot is animation, but they're using CGI to do it. I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say that I think not only is it nominated for animation and for special effects, but I wouldn't be surprised if it won in both categories as well.
I got a feeling it won't win for best. I'm not even positive it'll be nominated for best animated film.
Really?
When you look at the response, I mean, I would nominate it. I loved it. But I know there's a lot of people that didn't, so I don't know if it'll get nominated. But visual effects...
They have no soul, John.
I know, but I do think...
If you're a member of the Academy and you do not nominate and vote for The Lion King, you have no soul.
You have no soul. Anyway, guys, the question is, what about you? Do you think that despite the fact that the rules do allow it, and there is precedent for it, and it has happened historically in the Academy Awards, do you feel that if a movie is entirely done in CGI, that it should be disqualified for visual effects? I don't think there's an argument to be made for that, but maybe you see it differently. Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, with that down and out of the way, let's move on to main topic number 3. Chris, what is our third main topic today?
The third topic is from Jeff Singer. Early this week, it was announced Paramount is developing a Face Off reboot, becoming the latest IP revival being developed. Others being Coming to America 2, a Grease prequel, why? And G.I. Joe films, as the studio desperately is trying to resurrect itself. This leads to my question. Why not try to revive the Cloverfield franchise? I know the last film sucked, so much so that they sold it to Netflix, but seeing how the first two films made money, especially considering their budgets, why not try to revive it? Oh, I'm gonna geek out so hard. Why not revive Cloverfield?
Because it's a failure.
No!
That's why. Okay, look, let me now that I shocked everybody. Okay, hold on. Let's reel it in just a little bit here. Okay, so yeah, look, everything right now in Hollywood is about IP. IP, and can you do franchise? Franchise is where a lot of the money is. Franchises pay for the smaller films that get done and all that kind of stuff that we get to celebrate this time of year. So why not, especially if you're at Paramount where you've been struggling a little bit. You've been struggling and you're looking at other things like going back to G.I. Joe, which by the way, and I'm not just saying this because Hasbro provides 50% of the household income at my place. I'm looking forward to what they're going to do with Snake Eyes. But if you're going to go to properties like that or whatever, if you're going to resurrect Transformers and do Bumblebee, why not look at something like Cloverfield? Now, I'm going to say this. I like the first Cloverfield movie. I do. I didn't like it as much as most people. I thought, it was good and everything, and I enjoyed it. Yeah, I didn't think it was spectacular, but it was good and I enjoyed it. And it made a little bit of money. I thought 10 Cloverfield Lane was better. I actually, and I was a little bit late to the 10 Cloverfield Lane party, but I thought that movie was actually really, really sharp. I enjoyed it quite a bit. And then like everybody else, I was excited about a third Cloverfield movie, Cloverfield Paradox, which was being released by Paramount, hitting theaters soon, and then all of a sudden, I think it was at the Super Bowl, they dropped this out of nowhere announcement, and it's coming on Netflix, like tonight. And like, wait, what? What? It's like, and at first it hit us like, oh my God, this is the revolution. Like you're taking this movie, Cloverfield Paradox, and it's going straight to Netflix. Oh my God, this is the revolution. This is going to change everything. And then I watched Cloverfield Paradox after the Super Bowl was over, and I just wanted to shove my hand into a drain pipe or something with a trash compactor. I don't know. Anything to distract me from how truly awful that movie was. It was terrible. And we all went, oh, that's why they dished it off onto Netflix. Yeah. But you know what? It wasn't just the quality of it. Because while I like the first Cloverfield, while I really like the second one, the fact of the matter is, part of the reason they ditched it onto Netflix wasn't just because of the quality, it's because they knew this isn't going to make money. And the reality is, while they've done pretty well for their budgets, Cloverfield is not a franchise that rakes in cash. I mean, this might surprise some of you, but as we look back at the Cloverfield movies and their performance at the box office, these numbers are not opening weekend numbers. These numbers are not even domestic total numbers. These numbers are worldwide totals.
No.
The first Cloverfield movie made $170 million. Now, by any definition, still a success, because I believe they spent like 30 or 35 million to make it. So it's still a success, but it's not a studio life-changing blockbuster thing that will save a studio having a bad year kind of money, right? But it was a good movie and people enjoyed it. So they did 10 Cloverfield Lane, very loosely connected to the original.
What was the budget on that?
I believe it was around 40 or 50.
Okay, because they always amp the budget up and it made less, so...
Understandably so.
Yeah, which happens.
Understandably so. You know what? Actually, could you look up that number, the production budget on 10 Cloverfield Lane? But I think it was in the $40 to $50 million range. Okay. But despite the fact that the first movie was popular and people enjoyed it, and the trailers for 10 Cloverfield Lane were a little mysterious, but still, it dropped almost a third of its box office, and the second one only made $110 million. Again, even if they spent $5 on making that movie, yay, it's successful and it put a little bit of coin in their pocket, but it's not this will save the studio kind of movie, and you're risking a lot of money doing these films that you're now seeing diminishing returns. Then they do Cloverfield Paradox. Realize, oh my God, just promoting and putting this film in theaters is going to cost us more than probably what we paid on the movie itself. We can't put this thing in theaters financially. We're going to take a bath. ditch it on Netflix and pretend like it's a big, bold move. Did you find something on that,
Yes.
Chris?
So the original was made for $25 million, whereas Cloverfield Lane was made for $15 million.
It was made for, so they kept
For
it really
less.
low. They
Oh,
kept
wow.
it, which, by the way, when
Interesting.
you look at the movie, that makes sense
sense.
because it's practically a one environment movie.
Yeah.
You
But I
know,
feel like a lot of times, when you have a movie that has a low budget and then makes a ton of money in relation to its original
they'll
budget,
pop it
they'll-
up.
Yeah, pop it up.
But again, that might have been changed a little bit here because that first one made 170. It's not like it made 400 million
Right.
and they felt really big in that. So you're looking at a franchise that, hey, yeah, maybe you can put a few coins in and pull out a few dollars. I mean, that's a good transaction. But with it having diminishing returns and then really throwing the reputation of the franchise in the toilet with Cloverfield Paradox, is this something you should go back to at this point? Maybe in a few years. Like one of the things Paramount did is they put a bunch of years between the last G.I. Joe movies and now. They've let a number of years pass, all that kind of stuff. And maybe they need to put a few more years between, what Cloverfield was and then maybe you try it again in a few years. But just because of the financial realities of it, I don't see them going back to that well anytime soon. But hey, listen. They surprise us a lot with Cloverfield. For all we know, tomorrow they're going to drop an announcement that a new Cloverfield movie is coming out next week on Hulu or something. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. They very well could be doing that. But it doesn't seem, when you look at the pure numbers, again, that's all I'm going by here is just the pure numbers. It's hard to make an argument that if you're some junior vice president at Paramount, that you can write into the president's office and make a strong case about why, from a business perspective, we need to move forward on another Cloverfield movie. I'd be up for it. I just don't know that you have enough there to make a really, really solid argument. I don't know. When you look at this, Aaron, this is a franchise that, Paradox notwithstanding, which was terrible, has some goodwill amongst the fans. The first one definitely got a lot of buzz in the way it was done. They make the movies for pretty cheap. If you're that junior vice president at Paramount, do you think you could muster together a solid argument to walk into the president's office and maybe present him, here's some reasons why maybe we should do it, or do you think it's a lost cause?
You know what? I know that I was really fighting the good fight for reboots on Tuesday, but I just not really into this one. And part of it is because if Cloverfield had been by itself and that was all we saw, then I'd say absolutely the film did a really respectable job. It made some good money. Let's do the next generation. Let's do whatever the next one is. But because you already have 3 tries at it, I feel like it's kind of I'm just going to say this is kind of like a baseball analogy. You get three tries at bat. And just because this is not going to work because if your first hit is a home run, then you would. Never mind. That baseball analogy clearly is not going to work. But what I'm saying is I think that they gave it a good go. But you're right. They had continuing diminishing returns. Had Cloverfield been a standalone film, I would be 100% all for it.
10 Cloverfield Lane and Paradox didn't exist right now. And we were just talking about that one standalone movie. That changes the narrative.
Totally changes the story. I'd be like, yeah, it's time. There's been enough, because the first one came out, 10, 15 years ago?
It's been a while, yeah. 15
years ago, I want to say. And so I would be 100% for that. But I feel like they gave it another go to do a second one. And they did okay. And then they did a third where they're like, okay, it's time. It's at a certain point, you just got to bury it and move on to the next thing and find the next franchise. I will say, when I saw that there is a Grease prequel in the works, I'm not okay with that. I'm not okay with it at all. It actually made me want to take my SAG card and fling it out the window. I was like, I'm done with this business. I'm not interested. And you have to also remember, I love Grease 2. And I'm probably the only person that likes that movie, but I will sing.
Who's in that with Michelle Pfeiffer?
Michelle Pfeiffer.
But who's the guy?
It's the guy who plays Rex Manning
in
Empire
Records.
Really?
Yes, and he's like so sweet in Grease too, and then he's such a dick in Grease in Empire Records. But
Rex Manning Day, what a douche.
I mean, the number of times that as a kid I climbed on a ladder and sang "Cool Rider" or put a Christmas ornament on my shirt and sang "Girl for All Seasons." Oh my gosh, I'm into the Grease, but I don't want to see. I think that because the popularity of the Grease Live, it did really, really well and people loved it. They're like, oh, we should do this prequel. What is the prequel? It's just Sandy and Danny the summer before.
Summer camp.
Yeah, I know, but like, I want to see Kaneki. I want to see Rizzo. I want to see Frenchie. I want to see, Marty Maraschino, like the Cherry. Like, I want to see those characters. I don't want to just see Danny and Sandy frolicking on the beach. Definitely not if it's not Olivia Newton-John and John Travolta.
The prequel just follows the gym teacher. That's all it is.
I mean, and then watch. It ends up being like our favorite movie of the year.
Yeah.
I don't
one of these things that come out.
know.
By the way, when you're saying you used to sing "A Girl for All Seasons," I don't know why. I probably, you know what? I'm probably gonna get chastised for sharing this. But just before the show started, I'm not gonna give you any context. I'm not gonna give you guys any context. But just before the show started, Aaron goes over to Chris and says, because I'm not looking at them. I'm focused on my screens getting the show ready to go. And all I hear is Aaron saying to Chris, put your hand up my shirt just above my bra. and I'm sitting there, and I didn't even look over. I said, if Aaron had a nickel for every time she said that, no.
It is true. That did happen. That did happen.
Again,
it's
totally
No
out of
Pants
context.
Thursdays.
It is no
Totally
Pants
out of
Thursdays.
context.
Anything can happen
No
on the
Pants
John
Thursdays
Campea
above
Show.
the bra.
All right.
I want
Above
to
the bra.
really geek out real quick, you guys, though.
about?
Oh, yeah, do it.
Because
Sorry, I talked for a long time. Go.
money and logic be damned. Let me have my movie. I deserve nice things.
You do.
So even
So-
after Paradox, you
Oh,
like,
no, I'm
really
going to
excited for
pretend
that?
like Paradox doesn't exist.
Well, I do that for the
Get out
Highlander
of there.
too, so maybe,
Meh.
yeah.
So that first movie, because I really like y'all's idea of like, let's pretend these other ones don't work, even though my girl,
Hey,
Mary
they just
Elizabeth
did it with
Winstead-
Halloween,
Yeah.
and they're doing it with the new Terminator. They're
Exactly.
pretending like the other ones don't exist.
Let's go back to our origin.
I didn't even
Let's
think
go
about
back to
that.
that first one. Let's revisit all of that, because if you were as obsessed with Cloverfield as I was, you fell into that rabbit hole of their crazy marketing,
Yep.
where there was all the Slusho ads. Slusho, which John, you should appreciate, is a beverage that goes back to Alias.
Yes, it does.
So, JJ doing all of his due diligence, making those worlds connect. We ignore the whole paradox thing because that's not what JJ wanted.
Right.
It's not a space alien. It is a prehistoric creature, a baby, who has been living underseas. They get all those weird little nutrients that they put in the Slusho drink. The company that Rob works for and is going to go off to Japan to work for. The satellite that crashes at the end is what brings that monster up to life and has him go destroy the city. Let's focus on all those juicy little details that were just kind of thrown in and peppered in and only weirdos like me know about who spend too much time on the internet. Give me more of what was happening in there. Let me know about this weird Japanese company that was studying this undersea creature. Let me know about the intrigue of trying to keep that hidden from everyone. You can explore different things that happened on that day. We had one perspective. Let's get another one. It's a great story and there's so much more stuff there. Just do what I want.
But just
We
do
should
what I
just
want.
do what you want.
Just do what I
Absolutely.
want.
Hey,
All right,
Hollywood,
listen.
just do what she
I
wants.
asked for so little. Just make movies that only I want.
Listen, we got to move on here, but listen, guys, we want to know what you guys think about that. If you're a junior, again, put yourself in that shoes. If you're a junior vice president at Paramount and you had to go in and make the case to the prez, hey, this is why we should do another Cloverfield. Do you think you got enough ammunition to do it? If so, jump down to the comment section below and let us know what you think. All right, with that down, let's now move on to main topic number 4. Chris, what is our 4th main topic today?
This is from Amal A. Greetings and salutations, John. I just read that the Russo brothers would be interested in coming back to the MCU if they were offered the Fantastic Four. Considering the great success they had with their other MCU films, do you think this is likely to happen? Thanks. Russo brothers and Fantastic Four. What are your thoughts?
Okay, so this started flying around yesterday, like headlines like Russo brothers say they will come back for Fantastic Four and all this kind of stuff. And this is one of those situations where, was that said? Yeah, but it's being taken a little bit out of context. And so you get these headlines running right now. It's like Russo brothers like hinting they're going to come back and they're going to do Fantastic Four and all that kind of stuff. It's like, okay, well, wait a second. Let's pump the brakes on that for a second. Where this comes from is Sci-Fi Wire was talking to the Russo brothers about a number of different things. And it came up and they basically asked them, they put the question to them. All right. A lot of people are forgetting to put this part in there. Somebody put the question to them. If something was going to bring you back to the MCU and make you consider coming back to the MCU, you know, what would it be? It's not like the Russo brothers were standing around and just said, we're going to call a press conference today. And then, you know, Joe and Anthony get up to the podium and say, we just wanted to announce that we are interested in coming back to the MCU for Fantastic Four. Context is everything. Anyway, this is what was specifically written in the Sci-Fi Wire interview. Asked what it might take to bring the brothers back to the MCU. It sounds like the recent Fox merger offers plenty of enticing possibilities. Well, I grew up on I never know how to pronounce his last name. I always want to say Byrne, but anyway.
Burns?
X-Men run. Ben Grimm was a favorite character growing up, The Thing. And Fantastic Four is now in the Marvel fold. There's a lot, Joe said. Silver Surfer is an amazing character. Going really big in cosmic would be a lot of fun. So there's a lot of things that could attract us. Listen to that again. So they're sitting around saying, hey, what could bring you back to the MCU? What were they going to say? Nothing.
Yeah.
We'll never go back.
Screw them. What are they going to... So they got to say something. And so they said something about what's new. And again, just listen to how they worded it. Like, hey, Silver Surfer is an amazing character. Going really big in cosmic would be a lot of fun. So there's a lot of things that could track. So basically the bottom line is, whereas a lot of people running around is, Russo's talking about Fantastic Four. Well, they actually mentioned a number of things. And really, ultimately, the answer to the question that was put to them was, so there's a lot of things that could attract us. I mean, that's the bottom line. So I just want to kind of put to bed here for a second this notion that seems to be going around, because again, I've had a number of people writing to me about this saying, John, did you hear that the Russo brothers are interested in coming back to do Fantastic Four? It's like, that's kind of misrepresenting what was actually said. They were put on the spot, asked a question, what would bring you back? And they said, X-Men. They said Fantastic Four. They said Ben Grimm. They said Silver Surfer. You know what? A lot of stuff could entice us. That's what it was. So let's not get too carried away. But that's what we as film fans like to do. I'm guilty of that too. We like to take these little things and get carried away with it. But it does raise an interesting question about, okay, well, let's put aside then that they weren't seriously sitting down saying, we want to come back to the MCU from Fantastic Four. Okay, that's not what they said. But it does at least bring up a fun thing to theorize about, is what would we think about the Russos coming back for Fantastic Four? How would we feel about that? On the one hand, there's the first knee-jerk reaction, which is, well, they did Civil War, and they did Winter Soldier, and they did Infinity War and Endgame. Oh, God, yes. Obviously, that's the first reaction that a lot of us will have, me included. At the same time, I also feel a little bit like, and I said this before, and I will say it again, I am dying to see, without pessimism or optimism, I'm just dying to see what can the Russo brothers do with a movie without Kevin Feige. Because so far, they've got You, Me, and Dupree, which actually Rob likes. And I'm sure other people, to me, despite the fact that I love Owen Wilson and all that kind of stuff, did not work for me. Not a good movie. But without Kevin Feige holding their hands, and that's unfair for me to say, without Kevin Feige being there and giving the oversight and giving the overall directions of where the movies need to go. Remember, Peyton Reed stepped in. What did Peyton Reed done? And he gave us Ant-Man, which I think is fan-frickin-tastic. I think it's like maybe the third most underrated Marvel film right now. I think the most underrated Marvel film is the first Thor. Second most underrated is Captain America: The Winter Soldier. And I think the third most underrated one is that first Ant-Man movie, because that first Ant-Man movie is a brilliant entertainment-packed film that I love. But Peyton Reed, who doesn't really have a big movie, he came under Feige and they delivered something great. I am very, very curious. I really want to see what the Russo brothers can do outside of the MCU. Not as producers, not as consultants. I want to see them actually take the chairs and helm and steer and guide and direct other movies, and I want to see what they can do. Because it would be amazing to see them come out and do movies that, like, say, hell, maybe Kevin Feige was holding them back. Because maybe they start making some movies that are like Oscar contenders. Or maybe they make You, Me, and Dupree The Second Coming. I don't know. But I want to find out. So I'll be honest with you. Even though there's something inherently exciting about the idea of the Russos coming back and doing like a Fantastic Four, the other part of my brain is very much in the state of, but I want to see what they can do outside of that. I really want to see what they can do. And I'm excited about what they can do. And I want them to step away for their own good. I want to see them step away from the MCU for a while and see if they can really do that on their own. And I think then if they do that and later they want to come back to the MCU, awesome. But I'm dying to see that. I don't know, Aaron, I'm sure there's an argument to be made with the whole notion of, hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. These guys have had a tremendous streak in the MCU. They've had some big success. Do you see there being some real good thing about there? Yeah, come right back and do Fantastic Four. Or do you see things a little more like me? I'm like, I want to see them do some stuff outside of that and see what they can do. Where do you sit on this?
Well, I am completely where you're sitting. I'm sitting on your lap, John.
It's visual effects. You just can't tell.
Exactly. I completely agree with you. I think that whether you are an actor, a director, a writer, everybody gets pigeonholed as an artist. And I don't think it's just exclusive to artists. I'm sure that in other occupations, people get pigeonholed of, oh, this is what the one thing you're good at, so we're going to make sure that you just keep doing this thing. And it's really challenging to be seen as being able to do something else just as well, if not better. The good news for you, John, and for me, and for everybody else who is a fan of the Russo brothers and wants to see what else they can do outside of the MCU and outside of Kevin Feige, is that we're going to get that.
Right.
Because they have Cherry coming out next year. Cherry is in pre-production, stars Tom Holland, which is great. I love the fact that Tom Holland is also saying, hey, I want to branch out myself. This is a drama about an army. He's a medic, I believe, and he gets addicted to drugs and get addicted to painkillers, I believe, and then becomes a bank robber because of the debt that he has because of his drug addiction. It's a drama and is definitely not like anything that we have seen from them before. They also in pre-production have a comedy coming out that's in pre-production right now. That's not going to be anytime soon, but they also are developing a show that's super under wraps for Amazon. So they have a lot of things going on outside of the MCU, which is smart. They're going to be able to distance themselves just a little bit, but they're also not closing the door. They're saying, yeah, absolutely. And when you're developing that Fantastic Four or that X-Men or whatever, these projects that we're mentioning, when you're developing them, keep us in mind, and maybe in 4 years, we'd be interested in coming back and doing it, which is incredibly smart. They're going to go out, they're going to do their films that they think might be able to elevate them to perhaps Oscar status or at least critical acclaim. And then they always have their bread and butter in the MCU that they can go back to and know that that's the nice, warm, safe place. But I love the fact that they're branching out.
Yeah, and now one of the things too that they're doing, and this could become a hurdle, and people should keep this in mind. So they've set up their own shingle, they're setting up their own production company now. And here's one little thing I'm worried about is they may not be all that interested, because if their own production company, if their own shingle starts to take off and do well, they might be hesitant to come back to Marvel to just direct a film for Marvel, and where their company doesn't have a piece of the pie. And what we've learned, if anything, from this entire Sony debacle is that Disney doesn't share well. Disney doesn't play well with others. And in many ways, that works in their benefit quite a bit. So it's going to be interesting to see if that comes into play. Question here is for you guys. I mean, beyond all of ours, including me, our first knee-jerk reaction was like, wow, Russo's with the Fantastic Four. Or do you kind of feel like, no, look, we've had them do that. Let's get some new filmmakers in there to try some of these things, and let's see what the Russo brothers can do outside of the MCU. Where do you guys fall in play with that? Jump down to the comments section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, with that down, let's now move on to our fifth and final main topic today. Chris, what is our fifth and final main topic today?
Final topic is from Addie DeBrea. Hello, John and friend. Huge fan of the show. With the month of October being full of big movies like Joker, Gemini Man, Jojo Rabbit, Maleficent 2, Zombieland 2, what movie do you think will have the biggest box office? And also, John, which one of us is your friend?
I thought you were going to say, and also, why isn't Cloverfield on that list? Listen, everybody's friends on No Pants Thursdays. Okay,
Yay!
So that's the diplomatic answer. You know what? Very quietly, because, and I think it's understandable, because of all the festival hype that's been going on and all the stuff, and we're starting to look at Oscars, which is, still months away. October has snuck up on us. God, I still have a hard time believing it's pretty much the middle of September. I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around that right now.
Of 2019.
Of 2019,
when I saw
nonetheless.
Oscars 2020, I was like, oh my God, that's
It's
in
the
like
next
4
Oscars.
months. Yeah.
Yep. No, I remember I was having a conversation yesterday with somebody, and I mentioned, being in 2018, blah, blah, blah. It's like, it's 2019. I'm going to say it's not too, oh my God, it is.
You just feel like Robin Williams and Jumanji. Just, what year is it?
Yep. But October has kind of snuck up on us, and it's just a couple of weeks away now. And really, I think we've forgotten, because we are looking down the road. We're looking at us. October looks really exciting. October looks really, really exciting because you start going down the list of what's coming out. First of all, you're looking at something like, obviously, Joker. That's the one everybody's talking about. That's the one that's just won the Golden Lion. That's the one the critics are going crazy over. That's the one I've been going crazy over. So Joker is clearly there. But in the midst of all the Joker hype, which comes out October 4th, Gemini Man is coming out. And I don't care what anybody says. When you look at the cast and you look at the director and you look at the trailers, I think this movie looks great. And I'm very excited for Gemini Man.
Gemini Man is Ang Lee, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And so I'm so excited for this, and I just can't wait. And I just want to pull up this one thing about Will Smith, because the thing is, when you look at the visual effects of this trailer, like we can talk about, and you know, Rob and I discussed this a bit the other day. You talk about, oh, the Irishman, they're doing this de-aging thing. I saw the trailer, and it's decent. What they do in Gemini Man with Will Smith looks flawless. Anyway, so we got Joker coming out on the 4th. On the 11th, we got Gemini Man. And then there's this other movie also opening against Gemini Man that I'm not excited about because I don't think the trailer was good. But everybody else, including my wife, is dying to see it. It's called Jexy. And that's the one with the guy from Workaholics. What's his name again?
Adam Devine.
Adam Devine. That's it.
Love
it's the
Adam
one,
Devine.
And I like Adam Devine too, where it's basically a spoof version of her in a way that he gets into this unhealthy relationship with the operating system on his phone, who kind of takes over everything and is ruining his life. And I was in a theater when they played the trailer for this, and I didn't laugh once, but everybody, including my wife in that theater, was laughing hysterically. So you got to keep your eyes open for that. I'm not so excited about Addams Family, which is also opening on the. I haven't liked the trailers for that very much. And then you've got Maleficent 2. I didn't like the first Maleficent, although I thought Angelina Jolie was great in it. I didn't like the film. But I'll tell you what, everything I've seen from the trailers, the preview stuff they showed us at CinemaCon, the additional preview stuff they showed us at D23, I'm telling you what, this film actually looks pretty good. And I don't like the first one. But this one is actually looking pretty good, and I'm looking forward to it. Another one that a lot of people are excited about and talking about is Zombieland 2 Double Tap. I'm not the biggest fan in the world of Zombieland. I'm not. I'm not a big Jesse Eisenberg fan. But a lot of people loved that first one, and people went nuts online. They announced they're doing another one. And I will admit, the trailer for Zombieland 2 was pretty funny. I will admit, I think it looks pretty good. So you got that coming up as well. And then one of the films that we're not talking about, because it was supposed to come out like 2 years ago, and we've been talking about it forever, and we've just completely forgotten about it, but is The Current War. And that is a film that I've been excited about for years, with Benedict Cumberbatch. You got the guy who plays Beast in X-Men. Why am I forgetting? And it was the lead in
Holt?
Nicholas Holt. Thank you. I was going to say the lead in Warm Bodies. If you haven't seen Warm Bodies,
Oh, great movie.
He's so good. Nicholas Holt, Michael Sheen, or Michael Shannon, I should say. I keep mixing up Michael Sheen and Michael Shannon. Both fantastic actors.
Both a little creepy, in their looks. Very nice people, but damn, they can play creepy well.
I mean, that thing looks ridiculously good, but we've all forgotten about it. It's been
What
out
is
of
it called again? I don't even know what you're talking
The
about.
Current War.
It's
about the battle to bring electricity to America. So I forget. It's Westinghouse and what's the other main?
Holland's in that, isn't he?
Tom Holland is in it
Yeah.
as well. Yep. So one guy plays Westinghouse. One guy plays. I think Holt plays Tesla.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I think anyway I have been dying to see this movie for like 2.5 years since the trailers first came out. But then it was at the Weinstein Company.
Oh.
And then all the drama happened at the Weinstein
They're like,
Company.
we're going to put this on the shelf for a couple years.
And then somebody else had to come along and get the rights to it. Then they had to figure out a time to release it. But that's coming out. So that looks really good. So anyway, we're getting a really good looking thing. Now, what's going to win the box office? Maleficent's going to win the box office. The last one wasn't even good and made over $700 million. So that one's going to win the box office. But I'll tell you what, the one I am most looking forward to, obviously, is Joker. But besides that, you got films like Jojo Rabbit. And by the way, the Jay and Silent Bob reboot is coming out. Jay and Silent Bob Get Rebooted is coming out. Double feature. It's just called Jay and Silent Bob Reboot. That comes out in October. I'm very excited about that as well. But again, Jojo Rabbit, Gemini Man, a lot of stuff to look forward to. So I think the box office winner will be Maleficent. I think the best film, at least I'm hoping the best film out of that month is going to be Joker. I know that's one I'm looking forward to most, with a very, very close runner-up of Gemini Man, even over Jojo Rabbit. That's the order for me. So I don't know, when you look at this list, because I think this is a terrific list. October is going to be a great month to be a film fan. What one is standing out to you the most that's really got your mouth watering?
I really want to see Jojo Rabbit, which I'm really surprised that Jojo Rabbit has continued to go down and down. Because when that trailer first came out, John, you were super stoked on this.
I was beside myself. I still am.
Have you lost some of your excitement over it?
No, honestly, I have not. I'm equally as excited because, and by the way, it's climbed up, as more reviews have come in, it's now climbed up over 70%. So right now, Jojo Rabbit's sitting at 71. But again, it's kind of like Joker in a way that you're doing a comedy about Hitler.
Yeah.
Not
I don't
an
think
easy
that,
sell, not going to be for everybody.
No, I don't.
So I'm cool
I definitely agree with you that Maleficent is going to own the box office. However, what I'm excited about is just from the trailer, I just get so like, I want to skip. When I'm watching the trailer. I feel like there's so many happy, good, feel-good moments in the trailer that are really funny. I showed it to Tom, and the little kid at the end when he accidentally
with the rocket
sets
launcher?
off the rocket launcher and goes, "It's not
So
a good
funny.
time to be a Nazi." I mean, I just think there's something so endearing and sweet about it. I'm really looking forward to seeing Joker. So you know what? I'm not too concerned about Gemini Man coming out the same weekend as the Adam Devine film, because we had this conversation either on Tuesday or last week where we were talking about how there's like the one weekend where we have Ad Astra, you know, like these 3 different movies coming out, but they're so violently different from one another. Someone who's really interested in going and seeing a goofy Adam Devine comedy, remind me the name of the movie again?
Jexi.
How do you spell that?
Jexi. It's the name of the operating system, I believe.
Jexi, got it. So someone who's interested in laughing along with Adam Devine's kookiness on Jexi is not going to be wanting the same flavor as what we're going to get in Gemini Man with Will Smith, and vice versa. I think both movies. Well, I know that Gemini Man looks phenomenal, and I love Adam Devine, so I'm sure it's gonna be funny. So I feel like it's really gonna be what flavor do I want tonight versus what's gonna necessarily compete with one another. And
Which is also a summation of your online dating days.
Totally, 100%. What am I feeling tonight? What flavor am I feeling? Thanks, Tinder. But so I think that I agree with you. I think October is a great time to be a film fan, a fantastic time to hit the box office and go more than once per weekend. Go check out several films. You're not going to run out of really fantastic things to watch.
Exactly.
When you look at this, Chris, like what stuff gets your juices flowing? What gets you excited?
Man, I am so pumped for Joker. I am so excited for that. I could not care less about Maleficent 2. That trailer looks so bad to me, of just like, In-Laws, the movie. No, thank you. I don't care. The one that I think I am truly the most excited about, though, is JoJo. I am so pumped. And I've seen a couple people confused about this. It's not a comedy about Hitler per se. Yes. It's this kid's imaginary friend. He's made his imaginary friend his idea of what the fear is. And so that's why it's a goofy, ridiculous man. But what I'm most excited about, you guys, and I'm so glad it got brought up of, comedy about Hitler, is this going to be okay? What's the best way to combat hateful people? Make fun of them and let them know that children in a film understand that the principles of Nazism aren't great. So I think this is going to be a fun movie and a very important movie, because Proud Boys need to be taken down a notch.
And hey, if Mel Brooks, was it Hitler in Springtime?
Yeah,
was that the name of it?
Springtime for Hitler
Springtime
and Germany.
For Hitler. If he can do that, why can't Taika Waititi?
Exactly.
Anyway, guys, look, I think October is looking fantastic. What do you think about it? Obviously, I think for a lot of us, it's going to be Joker. What other films are you really looking forward to in that month? Jump down in the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys, that will do it for all of our main topics today. We're now going to go over and take some live questions that you guys have been sending in. But listen, before we do, we've been going for a little bit over an hour. We're going to take a couple of minute break here, probably about 3.5 minutes, rest up the vocal cords, stretch the legs, refill our drinks. So hang tight with us, guys. We will be back in about 3.5 minutes. We'll see you in just a second. All right, and we are back. Thank you guys for your patience as we stretch the legs a little bit. Now let's jump right on over and start taking your live questions that you guys have sent in. And we're going to get things started here. Who are we starting with? We're starting with Amir B, who writes, if Joaquin Phoenix wins an Oscar for Joker, that'll be the second time in history two actors win portraying one character after De Niro and Brando as Vito Corleone. Now, the one thing I will point out, there is a little bit of a difference there, because in the Godfather things, they were literally playing the same character. This Heath Ledger, this Joker that's being portrayed by Joaquin Phoenix is not the same Joker as Heath Ledger's Joker. Two different characters, but kind of the same character. Whereas, you know, in The Godfather, it was literally the continuation of the exact same character. So minor difference, but you raise a good point there, Amir. Okay, Andres Martinez writes, thoughts on Joe Rogan. Again, I talked about Joe Rogan the other day. I think he's particularly as a UFC commentator. That dude is knowledgeable. He's charismatic. And I love it when he calls fights, because not only is he big and energetic and entertaining, and I hear a lot of sports commentators that are that, but reveal they don't have a deep knowledge of what's going on. Joe Rogan is deeply knowledgeable about the sport and the art, and that's why I think he's tremendous, and I really enjoy watching him call fights. Nick writes, really enjoyed Cloverfield. Other than Chronicle, it's my favorite found footage. Chronicle is probably my favorite found footage one, too. Should have included it with my top films the other day with King Kong 2005. Also, why don't you like The Terminal? Well, I don't like The Terminal because it's not a good movie. As far as found footage movies go, yeah, man, I'm with you. Chronicle, directed by Josh. What's Josh's last name?
Duhamel.
No.
Well, I tried.
Anyway, I forget. But anyway, I love that movie. And I remember, like you, I was going into it being like, I almost didn't go. I almost didn't go to the screening. And it was at the studio lot. And I almost didn't go. But Ray was hanging out with me that day, Ann's brother. And it's like, yeah, let's go. Ray. I'm like, all right. So we go and we go watch. And I walked in, I'm like, holy shit. I never thought I could enjoy a found footage movie again, and that movie did it. So I'm with you. I liked it more than Cloverfield. I'm going to guess, Chris, that you like Cloverfield more.
I love Cloverfield so much.
Would you say it's your favorite found footage movie?
My favorite found footage movie, because also most found footage movies are terrifing and scary, and
yeah, and you're not really
I don't
big
like
on
horror.
Would
but
Blair Witch
aliens
Project
exploding out of people is fine.
That's considered a
found footage.
That's kind of like the starting point. That's kind of like the ground zero of found footage movies. Mm-hmm. That Eduardo Sanchez directed that, and you know what? It gets bashed on now, but a lot of people at that
Blair
time,
Witch,
yeah.
But it was
Time,
groundbreaking.
yeah.
I mean,
because
also their
that.
I think that they also really understood marketing in a way that a lot of other films did not. I mean, we have to remember, we all thought it was real. I remember being in college, and that was what everybody was telling us. We were like, oh my God, this is real.
It's a documentary.
We believed it. And then I went and saw it, and I was in the front row, and I was like, I want to throw up. I can't watch this.
Oh, it was... And remember, literally, not just does it look like they made it for $15. I mean, I think they may have actually spent $15 making that movie. They were using these Sony VX1000 cameras that I had at the time. Like, you made a movie with the camera that I have? It was groundbreaking at the time. Now, it's all popular today to poo-poo on it, all Blair Witch. And the sequels sucked. Sure. But... I thought it was pretty groundbreaking. So anyway, what would you say was that your favorite found footage movie, Aaron, or do you have another one?
I mean, here's the thing. I wish the theater weren't so packed, so I could have sat at the back of the theater, because I'm not kidding you. I watched the entire movie been rough. Like this on the first row, because that was the only seat available. But I still sat through the whole thing, and despite my nausea from the shaking and the sitting like that, I still really enjoyed it.
All right. Next up here, what do we got? We got Nick writes, I'd rather I'd much rather the Russos do a Secret Wars and Fantastic Four. Sure, but again, I'm still of the thing is I'd rather them go away from the MCU for a while. Make other films. Let's see what they can do when Kevin Feige isn't there directing the way. And I don't say that as a derogatory way. I mean, a lot of Marvel directors had great success under Kevin Feige. I really want to see what they can do, you know, in the post Yumi and Dupree era. I want to see what they're going to do. And I want to see if they might be the next, like, legit Oscar contender. So anyway, that's me. The Mandalorian of Gondor writes, one of two. If Joker takes off like we hope it does, I hope Warner Brothers considers a label where more standalone comic movies can happen. I want more serious dramatic Oscar contenders. If Taxi Driver can inspire Joker, why not Unforgiven for Jonah Hex or The Exorcist for Constantine? It's funny you bring that up, Mandalorian of Gondor, because Todd Phillips, he was just asked, like, why was it important to you? Because Todd Phillips just recently made a statement definitively saying, no, you're never going to see the Joaquin Phoenix Joker crossover with Robert Pattinson's Batman. This was never intended to be shared cinematic universe of any kind. And he was just asked, why is that? And he clarified, he said, you know, I actually went to Warner Brothers and I am pitching them a separate label where these types of standalone one-shot movies can be made with talented directors to come in and not have their hands cuffed to what's going on in the shared cinematic universe, but be totally free to tell some great, original, wonderful stories. He said Joker was always meant to be a one-shot film. Now, he hasn't dismissed the idea that there's a 1% possibility he could make another Joker movie. He hasn't completely dismissed it, but he said it was always intended as a one-shot, standalone, great story of a movie. And he's trying to encourage Warner Brothers to develop a separate label, not as another shared cinematic universe, but a separate universe, a separate label where just true standalone movies can come and be made. And I want to see that because, guys, that opens the door for, you know, look, they've done Dr. Freeze or Mr. Freeze so badly in every incarnation, basically. But when you look at the story of that character, it's heartbreaking and powerful and moving, and you do a movie where you throw off the handcuffs and just let some good director come in and tell a really good Freeze story that's not connected to anything else, that could be special. Or hell, what about something like something that is an existing comic book story? Red Sun. I mean, I would love to see, and for those of you who don't know what it is, imagine what would have happened if when Kal-El's Superman's little baby spaceship came down, what if it didn't land in Kansas? What if it landed in Russia? What if it landed there and he was brought up and raised in communist Russia? And what type of hero would he be? I mean, it's that type of stuff is so fascinating to me. I don't know, like when you look at this stuff, guys, like what do you think would be some of the benefits and what do you think maybe could be some of the drawbacks, Aaron, of maybe Joker succeeding? Are there other benefits you see? Are there any drawbacks you see? What do you think could be some of the repercussions?
Well, I love the idea of opening the door for more of these stories to be told, because you're absolutely right. When filmmakers have their hands tied of being forced to have all these characters interwoven, what you don't get is full character development. So the movie that keeps jumping out at me because it was so terribly done is the George Clooney Batman, Joel Schumacher. Right. But that's the thing, is that all of those characters were caricatures. And I just wonder if Penguin or Poison Ivy were given their own standalone film. I'm not saying that they should. I'm just saying in general, if one character was plucked out and given their own standalone film and we actually saw how they became what they were versus just, oh, look at me, I'm covered in leaves and I've got, and became such a, so cartoonish. And actually we saw the humanity underneath it. That would be really fascinating for me. I think we're at a time also where people are really, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on. And I think a lot of people are wanting to know what drives that, what drives that behavior. What are things what things happen in someone's childhood that affects them long term? And I'm not saying that every kid that, goes through a rough childhood is going to grow up to be the Joker. I'm not saying that, but I think that we are in this period where people are really interested in those kinds of stories. So I'm a big fan of it. I'm all for it.
And by the way, it doesn't have to be villains. Like you
Sure.
can do a Nightwing. Like what happens to Dick Grayson after he leaves Bruce Wayne? They tried to do it in Titans. I don't think they did a good job, but that'd be a great story. Anyway, do you see some benefits to that, Chris?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, gosh. Could you imagine just having a movie just about Bloodhaven? Oh, man. It'd be so cool. I think it'd be really beneficial. And it's kind of crazy because it's like we're trying to work backwards now. Because years ago, we wouldn't be having this argument of, well, yeah, but can you make me 6 more movies about this guy?
Right.
You know? Can you make sure that he's connected to all these other films we want to do 10 years from now?
Right.
So it'd be really great to just focus on these characters and their stories and the psychology of them, villain or otherwise. And I'm really glad that you brought up Mr. Freeze's backstory because, fun fact, the Mr. Freeze that we all know and love today with his whole, like, Nora storyline, that's another thing from the animated series that came about.
Nora.
Nice.
All right. Next one up. M. Dorscher writes, saw Faust from 1926. It's dark. Do you see silent films? I've seen a bunch of them. I don't know that I've seen Faust, though. That one, do either of you guys recognize that one?
No.
All right. But interesting, Dorscher. All right. Luke1234 writes, sent you an email of you and me at AMC 100. You know, I did see that. Thank you for that. At the AMC 100 million view party pics. Sorry it took so long. Had to go through all my phone. No problem. Thank you for sending those. And you know what? I think within the year, you know what? If I took a second here, indulge me for 1 second. I think, and I could be wrong about this, if we look at the year, I think within a year we're going to hit, just here on the John Campea channel, I think we're going to hit 100 million views. I'm not sure about that.
Nice.
Let me double check that and make sure I know for sure. So right now, the John Campea YouTube channel is sitting at 85.1 million views. So yeah, I think well, maybe even within 6 months, I think we might have to throw another 100 million view party.
Yay!
So hopefully y'all will come again. So that would be great. Okay, let's move on here. ZOMG Ruler writes, Aaron, you consider hypnosis for your arachnophobia.
You know, that's really kind of you to ask. I actually have thought about that, but it's not been enough of an issue for me to where I feel like I definitely need to do it.
It's not like you have to confront spiders every day.
Right. I also look at it like this is something that what are those things called that like you at some point in your life, like way back, it's an evolutionary thing. I'm still holding on to that evolution. Now, that being said, if Guillermo del Toro wanted to cast me in a movie where I would be with some big live action spider, or I would have to be like, I can't even say the words, but it's just like having like those things there that starts with a T and I don't want to say the word, crawling all over me, I would have to definitely, have some hypnosis. I'm freaking out
Or
right now.
he wouldn't want you to because he'd want it authentic.
Yeah.
And real.
I would pass out. I think I would pass
Buddha
out.
hogging that stuff, baby. Get it.
All right. Next up, Amir B writes, my top 10 movies since 2011. 10, Interstellar. Number 9, Whiplash. Love Whiplash. Number 8, Logan was the best film of 2017. Number 7, Django Unchained. Number 6, The Big Short. I love that. Number 5, Wolf of Wall Street. Number 4, Toy Story 4. Number 3, Gone Girl. Number 2, Moneyball. And number 1, Prisoners. Again, probably the Denis Villeneuve film that a lot of people still probably haven't seen, and you must go watch that. Jake Gyllenhaal, Hugh Jackman. Go see it. It's absolutely phenomenal. Good. And Moneyball 2 is a good one. Nice mix of list in there, Amir. I like that. Nasratu writes, I'm out of there, Jerry, and I'm loving every minute of it. I'm assuming just because the word Jerry is in there, that's probably a Seinfeld quote, but I'll be honest with you, unless it's when he left the New York Yankees, I can't remember exactly which episode that's from. Do you guys recognize that one?
I don't.
No.
Okay, but I'm going to guess it's when he left the Yankees. All right, Nat Park writes, 1 of 3. Hi, all. And by the way, sends a really big super chat. Thank you, Nat, for supporting the channel on that level, man. Appreciate that. Hi, all. Were you aware of the Movie News Net article regarding an April 2019 New York Post story about a hedge fund that tried to buy controlling stake in Sony in order to sell Sony Pictures? Per the article, if Sony had sold off Sony Pictures, Marvel would regain all IP to Spider-Man, etc. Et al., because all IP currently considered non-transferable. So Disney had no incentive to make a new deal. 1, would Sony ever sell off Sony Pictures? 2, Amazon was a likely buyer of that division. So are there any other interested parties? 3, was this a possible strategy by Disney to regain control without paying Sony to make a deal? Thanks. All right. Thanks a lot for sending that in, Nat. And basically, the situation is this. One of the shareholders of Sony has been a proponent of selling off a couple of divisions of Sony, including Sony Pictures and Sony Entertainment. They actually want to sell off Sony Entertainment. Now, if the company Sony, it gets a little complex, but follow me here. If the company Sony, which has the rights to Spider-Man, sells off Sony Pictures, the rights to Spider-Man are not transferable. So let's, for argument's sake, say Amazon bought all of Sony Pictures' properties. They couldn't get Spider-Man because that is a non-transferable license. It would then revert back to Marvel. However, like in the Fox situation, where the deal wasn't with, Fox News Corp, the deal was with Fox Studios. Had, say, Universal, Comcast was in the running to buy Fox instead of Disney. Had they bought Fox, 20th Century Fox, the rights to X-Men and Fantastic Four would not have reverted to Disney because technically they weren't transferring. The rights are still with 20th Century Fox, and 20th Century Fox is still intact. Whereas the license with Spider-Man is actually with Sony as a whole. And if they then transfer out Sony Pictures, then the rights revert back. And so there's that type of situation. However, Nat, the reality is all this talk is much ado about nothing. Because about a year and a half ago, might have been a little bit longer, but about a year and a half ago, Sony went through a leadership change and they appointed a brand new CEO. Now, the last CEO, and this is part of the reason why Sony Pictures fell into a little bit of disarray. The previous CEO was not big on their movie division. The previous CEO of Sony really didn't care that much about their movie division. However, the new CEO that they put in place is all about their movie division. He loves their movie division. And he has stated several times that Sony's future and Sony Pictures' future are going to be one and the same. That he is completely committed. Now, that doesn't mean it can't ever happen. Of course not. Things change, and minds can change overnight for sure. But right now, while there was a lot of hubbub and a lot of talk going around that thing, the bottom line was the guy who's in charge of Sony had said, on my watch, Sony Pictures is a priority for us, and we're going to make this thing work. And they've done a lot of good stuff in the last couple of years. And so really the discussion becomes much ado about nothing. But theoretically, yes, if Sony as a whole company just sold off one division, Sony Pictures, then the rights to Spider-Man would transfer back. I do not believe that was part of Disney's strategy because Disney knows Sony CEO has no interest of selling it off. So until that drastically changes, it is at this point much ado about nothing. Anyway, do you guys know anything more about that situation than what I've already explained or anything else that you guys have heard?
No, but this is one of the reasons why it has been such an honor to be a part of this show is every single time that I'm here, I learn so much, whether it's from people writing in questions or the topics of the day, the things that I learned from you, the things that I learned from Chris and from Rob. I'm just sitting here in awe, and I'm really, really thankful for people like this viewer who. Yeah,
I mean, that's
I didn't read the article. I have no idea.
Well-detailed question that Nat sent in.
Yeah, and I'm question. Like, wow, I'm learning so much about this industry that I'm a part of, and so thank you for the person who wrote in. Yeah, thank you, John.
That's awesome.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Rob. Wherever you are.
Oh, real quick too. Speaking of learning things, looked up that quote. That is Kramer to Jerry in the episode The Chinese Woman, in which Kramer finds out he has a low sperm count, so he decides to go commando. So, more no pants!
More no pants.
Yep, I would never have thought of that in a million years, but now that you mention it, yep.
And also, by the way, yes, Suicide Squad did win one Oscar, and it was for hair and makeup.
It was hair and makeup.
Yep,
yes, that's right. I thought I knew it was either that or costuming, so. Okay, it's funny. So just remember, ladies and gentlemen, pardon me, Suicide Squad, one Oscar, whatever your favorite movie is, probably none. So just keep that in mind. Reminds me, one of the greatest, I know I've said it before, one of the greatest lines in history at the Oscars ever. I believe it was Jon Stewart was hosting the Oscars this one year. And it was the year The Departed was up for Best Picture. And it did eventually win. And Martin Scorsese did win for Best Director that year. But remember, he hadn't won yet. And they had just done the category for Best Original Song, right?
I know what you're going to say.
And 3-6 Mafia, I believe that's the name of the group. 3-6 Mafia had won the Academy Award for Best Song for is it not The Hustle?
It's Hard Out Here for a Pimp.
Was the name of this tune. I'm trying to remember, who's the guy who played Rhodey before Don Cheadle?
Terrence.
Terrence Howard.
Yeah, Terrence Howard.
So it was the Terrence Howard film that they did Hard Out Here for a Pin. I'm forgetting the name of the movie. But so that was
Hustle and
earlier.
Flow.
Hustle,
Yes.
thank you. So 3 6 Mafia wins an Academy Award, right? Jon Stewart comes out on stage after they were so great. They were so excited. They were so pumped to win the Academy Award.
It was a beautiful moment.
It was a great moment. So they go off stage. Jon Stewart comes out and goes, "For those of you at home keeping score, 3 6 Mafia 1 Oscar, Martin Scorsese 0." And, which is like one of the greatest lines ever. Only second to the other great line. It was a year that Steve Martin hosted the Academy Awards when Billy Crystal, one of the first years that Billy Crystal didn't do it. And Steve Martin came out on stage and in his opening monologue said, "To me, hosting the Oscars is like making love to a beautiful woman. I only get to do it when Billy Crystal's out of town," which was also one of the other great lines ever in Oscar history. Anyway, I could go out down that rabbit trail for a while. We got to keep moving. So many questions here. Okay, S. Beam writes, one of two. "Hey, John, I've been a single dad of 3 great kids for about 3 years now, and I always felt kind of alone and sad until I found your talk show to talk movies." And then the second part of that is, listen to you, Rob, Chris, and Aaron has been a bright side for me. I just want to thank all of you for that, and I wish you all good fortune.
That's really nice.
First of all, S Beam, thank you so much for saying that. And you guys, I talk a lot about that. One of the great things about the movies and about entertainment and the movie fan community is that whatever's going on, and I know this is true for me, whatever's going on in our lives, I call it an oasis. Some people call it an escape. I don't call it an escape. I call it an oasis. I can submerge myself in a great movie, give my mind a couple of hours to just take a break, and then watch a movie, be inspired, be uplifted, and then when I come out of the movie, the crappy stuff is still there in my life, but I find that my mind is now not just a little bit more refreshed, but maybe I have a little bit of a bit different perspective. When I'm in a good 2 or 3 hour movie conversation with a group of people, I come out and it's like, oh yeah, I have a little bit of a different perspective now. I feel like my problems are still there, the crappy stuff is still there, but I'm able to handle it a little bit better right now because my mind's been a little bit relaxed, I've been inspired a bit, and I can put things a little bit more in perspective. And that's one of the reasons why I love the film fan community. It's one of the reasons why I love film. And I love getting stories like that, S-Beam. So thank you so much for sharing that. And I think it's a testament for probably a shared experience that a lot of us can feel about that. So I don't know. You guys have anything you guys want to say to S-Beam?
Well, S-Beams showed up on my other live show after being here to continually support me.
On Nerdwire?
So, yeah. So I'm just
beautiful.
so appreciative of you, dude. Thank you so much. And you are probably an awesome dad. Anyone who loves movies the way you sound like you love them has to be so fun and cool.
And I will say this, given the number of friends that I have that have kids, you are definitely a better parent than you think you are. Mm-hmm. And you know, and going along with what you were saying, John, you know, I had someone when I first started my career, someone said, you know, well, I mean, acting's pretty easy, and you're not, it's not, you know, it's not brain surgery. And I have this
That's
perspective.
why all of us do it.
Right. And I said, you know, I think that what we do as a film community is vitally important because we're not saving lives, but we're saving souls. And I think that sometimes we are saving lives because we allow people to go into a dark room and cry when they maybe can't cry out in their normal lives. When people say you're not allowed to cry, we give them movies where someone, you know, a dog dies, or the beginning of Up, where they're allowed to shed a tear or two and no one's going to judge them for it. We allow them to come into a movie theater and laugh after something like 9/11. You know, there was a reason why comedy box offices skyrocketed after 9/11 and after tragic events, because people want to have a reason to laugh and to know that it's okay. You know, what's that famous line from the first episode of SNL?
Oh, after
when they
the
asked,
thing?
you know,
Yeah.
but when they
That was
asked
great.
us, when Lorne Michaels asked Rudy Giuliani, well, can we laugh? And Rudy Giuliani said, well, why start now?
Are we allowed to be,
Are we
can
allowed
be
to
funny?
be funny? Oh, can we be
And
funny? And
Giuliani
he said, why start now?
Yeah.
You know, and so I'm that, yeah. Wow, this is such a, I feel all the feels on
yeah.
this show.
There's a reason why the earliest, look, we are defined as a species. I say this a lot. We are defined as a species as we are storytellers. When you go back to the earliest recorded history of our species, what is it? It's drawing on cave walls, telling stories. Our histories are passed down by sitting around campfires and sharing and telling stories. I mean, we are by nature storytellers. That's what we do. We're wired to be that way.
And we see our history through the stories. I mean, we can look back and we can go, oh wow. I mean, like when you go back and you watch movies from the 80s and comedies and you go, well, that joke wouldn't fly. But you see what certain periods of time were like in the culture, and it really defines us as we continue to evolve.
All right, we need to keep moving here, but thank you for sending that in, man. All right, Ben Elman writes, found out I get to go to Galaxy's Edge in December. Thought I would have to wait much longer. Will be a week after The Rise of Skywalker. It's going to be an insane Star Wars-filled week. Yep. Me and Ann were just at Galaxy's Edge again a couple of days ago. We went with a bunch of friends and tried to get in to get the lightsaber thing, but it was all booked up. She couldn't get in and get it done. But I love going there. I still contend they made a mistake by not having some more original trilogy stuff in there. But I'll tell you what, when you walk into Galaxy's Edge, you feel like you're walking into the world of Star Wars. You know, it's different from the Harry Potter land or the Wizarding World of Harry Potter Universal, because when you go there, you feel like you are stepping into the movie of Harry Potter, because it is what it is. You don't feel that with Star Wars, but you do feel like you're stepping into the Star Wars universe. Like, absolutely. And it is going to be a crazy week, Ben. All right, next up, Angry Irish Benjamin writes, who are your favorite DC and Marvel superheroes? My all-time favorite comic book character is actually Magneto. He's my all-time favorite, Marvel or DC. And on the DC side, obviously Batman. Do you guys have a favorite one? Just quick.
Medusa, the Inhumans.
That's a good one. What about you?
Spider-Man Zatanna.
Ah, there you go. All right. Akash Telly writes, my top 10 movies in no particular order. Raiders of the Lost Ark, nice. Wall-E, I love Wall-E. Nightcrawler, Jake Gyllenhaal, so good. Gone Girl, so fantastic. Paddington 2, and there's another person that's mentioned Paddington 2. I'm so happy. Paddington movies are grossly underappreciated. Anyway, Goodfellas, Whiplash, Silence of the Lambs, Ratatouille, and The Usual Suspects, which is also on my my all-time top 10 list as well.
That's at least a second Ratatouille this week.
Yeah, Ratatouille's been mentioned a couple
great
times. Karam Majoub just sends in a super chat. Thank you, Karam. Tim writes, one of two. The free trial of Disney Plus launched today here in the Netherlands. I heard about that and I ooze with jealousy. The interface looks good. You can add up to 10 accounts and stream on 4 different devices at the same time. All that for $7. This screams account sharing to more so than with other services. Your thoughts? I love the show, by the way. Well, first of all, my first thought again is insane burning jealousy.
Yeah.
I cannot wait to get my hands on this thing. Unlike the Apple Plus service, which right now I really don't care. But the Disney Plus streaming service looks incredible. They're really going balls out. I mean, with this, particularly with a huge amount. Now, I don't know if it's going to be the same in North America with 10 accounts being allowed, but they're basically saying, hey, everybody, share your account information with, like, where there's been a moral struggle for years with a lot of us. There's been a moral dilemma. Do I give this guy my HBO password? Do I let my mom watch this? And I try to get on Hulu. It's like, you've reached your maximum number of devices. Like, damn it, my brother-in-law's watching my Hulu account right now. Like, Disney just seems to be, everybody just get it.
You're gonna do it.
Just everybody get it. It's an interesting thing. Now, again, I also think there's a nefarious, shady side to this, where I think there's a part of this where Disney is basically the neighborhood crack dealer.
Yeah.
And they're just like, hey, everybody wants some free Disney Plus? Yeah, share with you. It's got $7. Just make $7. We're good. Share it with all your friends. And then in like 2 years, $29.95. Pay up, and you know you're going to want to.
That's what Netflix did.
And if I've got 10 friends splitting with me, that's fine. Venmo me your shit.
But they'll change it. They'll make it like now 2 shared accounts.
Right.
And I'm just telling you, this great deal that Disney's kicking off with, it ain't going to stay that way forever. They're just getting us hooked on that sweet, sweet crack. That's all they're doing right now.
Sweet, sweet crap.
Oh, my God. It's coming. I'm telling you, it's coming. Last question that we'll have, and then we got Aaron and Chris have got things they got to do, so we got to let them go. But Tim writes, to clarify, we get to try Disney Plus because Disney wants the services to run without problems when it launches. Yeah, it's kind of like a little test run for them. Launches in the States. This is because of the many competing streaming services. Well, It's also important to note, for those of us really burning with jealousy, that this trial run that they're doing does not launch with the new original programming. So some people who might be going, oh, they're getting The Mandalorian now? No, they're not. Mandalorian won't launch until November 12th, but a lot of their catalog is going to be in there. And it's probably a good idea by Disney to do this because, number one, it gives them a chance to get some heavy usership on it, work out some of the bugs, see where the stress points are going to be before the November 12th launch. It's probably pretty smart. You're not launching it, so nothing's getting ruined or anything like that. What do you think about the strategy, Aaron?
I think it's brilliant. Absolutely. Get the bugs out because you know how Americans are. We complain about everything.
Oh, yeah.
And we're not interested in being like, I get it. It's a try. No. We're going to be like, I want it right now, and I want it to be perfect, and I want there to be any bugs. And if there are, I want all my money back. I want my $7 back.
It reminds
me and my 10 friends want our $7 back.
Yeah.
It reminds me a lot of this thing that Louis C.K. Said once. And not the, hey, do you want to watch me yank my own dick? Not that part. The other thing that he said when he was, I can't remember which late night talk show he was on, but it was one of the best, most brilliant observations ever. He said, I'm taking a flight from New York to Los Angeles. And a guy in the seat in front of me, because it makes me wonder about how privileged we are.
They had just announced it over the intercom.
Oh yeah, somebody announced it over the intercom. Unfortunately, we've had a little bit of a problem, and our Wi-Fi service won't be available on this flight.
It was before that. The flight attendant said, "Congratulations, everybody! We have Wi." It was the first time that Wi-Fi was available. It was like right when
really?
Wi-Fi. Yeah,
maybe for that airline, because I know it was around on other airlines before.
Right, but the airline announced we have Wi-Fi on the plane, and the whole plane erupted in applause. And then it wasn't working, and
then the guy sitting in front of me goes, like really angry, he said, "This is bullshit." It's like, and then Louis C.K. goes, "I wanted to grab the guy and say, you are sitting on a chair in the sky." It's like, how privileged are we? Anyway, you're right. That and it's not just Americans. It's all of us. We all do that too. Anyway, that we gotta let Aaron and Chris check out here now, guys. Aaron, first of all, thank you again so much for being here. Where can people find you online? And remind us all again when the new series on CBS All Rise launches.
I will do that. You can find me online at Aaron L. Cummings on Instagram and Twitter, and you can also listen to my voice if you want to on my podcast. It's called Kappa Kappa Cancer. Please subscribe. And if you are a television watcher, which I know you are, or you wouldn't be watching this show, you can see me on the premiere of All Rise on CBS. It will be Monday, September 23rd, and at 9 p.m. And just go ahead and program that into your regular scheduled watching.
And I'm looking forward to that. And also joining us, of course, is Chris Carr. Chris, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at actor Chris Carr, or you can head over to Nerdwire on YouTube.
And guys, thanks so much for being here, and I'll look forward to seeing you guys again. All right. For the rest of us, we still got about a half hour to go here, so let's keep things rolling with the live questions. And we're going to get back to it with Give Luigi a Ring, who writes, "Hey, John and crew. Talking of favorite foreign films, have you guys seen Jean Reno movie Wasabi? I've not, and I love Jean Reno. It's awesome and worth a watch. Big love to the show." Well, thank you so much. You know what? I'm going to bring that up on IMDb right now because I love Reno. Wasabi, a 2001 film. From him, I've not seen it, but I think I'm going to have to. I've loved this guy ever since The Professional, and he's been in a ton of other good things that he just doesn't get recognition for. So thank you for sharing that, man. All right, K Major writes, a fat guy tries to re-win the heart of a tough green warrior woman from an alternate reality. Oh my God, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is going to rip off Shrek. By the way, I cannot wait. I am so happy about, and I know we talked about this a lot, but the Guardians of the Galaxy 3 thing, that James Gunn is back home. He's back in the fold, doing Guardians of the Galaxy 3 like he always should have been doing. But I love pointing out the fact that we are living in an era right now where we've got a director who at the same time is working on and developing a DC movie and working on and developing a Marvel movie at the same time. I love that. I'm so excited that he's doing both. James Gunn will be the great peacemaker of our day. You mark my words, he will be. All right, Jeremine Shibasu, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, writes, "Sorry, yesterday was Syndrome from Incredibles. can't remember what your quote was from yesterday. So sorry about that. If you're going to remind me of something from a previous show, you also got to put in there what it is you're reminding me about, because we go through about 100 of these a day. But thank you for following up, man. Senor Film writes, do you think Joe Pesci will do another movie after Irishman or retire again? Let's see how The Irishman gets received, because if Irishman is great, and if Irishman does get nominated for Best Picture, Pesci could be really he's always been in demand. Everybody would always be interested in Joe Pesci, but it might go through the roof, and it might be enough to lure him back in on a more regular basis for another couple of years. So I'm going to say, yeah, we're going to see him again. I'm just taking a guess. I think we'll see him again. Jeremy follows up with us. Also, favorite MCU post-credit scene. Mine is Captain America from Homecoming. Patience. My favorite post-credit scene. Man, they've done a lot of, but you know what? I don't want to be these what have you done for me lately guys, but it's hard not to go with the one from Far From Home. The one in Far From Home is so good. The post-credit in Ant-Man was great. The first Ant-Man was wonderful. I know a guy. That was great. But I might have to go far. I've never heard an audience reaction to a post-credit scene like Far From Home. So I'm going to go with Far From Home on that. Okay. Jonathan Teft writes, one of three. And really big super chat. Thank you, Jonathan, for supporting the channel and continuing to support the channel at that level, man. Really appreciate it, dude. Seeing everyone post their top 10 made me want to figure out mine. I started with about 50. It's tough, right? I started with about 50 and have now narrowed it down to 11. I can't bear to remove any of them. So screw the arbitrary number rule. Here's my top 11. Number one, decided way back to be the Lord of the Rings trilogy. That's going to be number one for a lot of people. The rest follow in no particular order. The Dark Knight, Spider-Man 2, love seeing that up there. Ben-Hur, also on my top 10 list, buddy. 2001: Space Odyssey, Jurassic Park, Rocky, which got a lot of Oscar buzz, by the way, a lot of Oscar attention. The Karate Kid, I'm going to assume you mean the original. The Princess Bride, absolutely. Sing Street, I think that's the first time I've seen Sing Street put on there. And The Court Jester. Sing Street was one of these little films that kind of snuck into theaters and caught a lot of people very much by surprise. Very, very much by surprise. But everybody talked about it immediately after. So that's the first time it's been on the list, Jonathan. I think that is a worthy inclusion. Obviously, it always does my heart good to see Spider-Man 2 up there. I love seeing that movie get a lot of love. 2001: Space Odyssey, Jurassic Park, Rocky, Princess Bride. We've seen these ones a bunch. Obviously, Lord of the Rings, but I really, really like that inclusion of Sing Street. Very, very much. Thanks for sharing that, Jonathan. All right. Next up, Big Meaty Claus writes, which is the best actor between Michael Coker and Daniel? You know what? Off the top of my head, I don't even know who they are off the top of my head. I'm sure if I looked them up right now, I go, oh yeah. Off the top of my head, don't know who they are. Jonathan Teft writes, some that almost made the cut. Pirates of the Caribbean. You know what? That's Pirates of the Caribbean, the first one, is one of those movies that I thought was a really stupid idea. You're doing a movie based on a theme park ride? That's what we're reduced to now? Seriously? I thought it was the dumbest idea ever. And I love that first one. And now it's the only Pirates of the Caribbean movie that I totally love. I didn't mind the last one, actually. But that first one I loved, so it surprised me a lot. Anyway, Pirates of the Caribbean, Iron Man, Monty Python, and the Holy Grail, which is great. The Lobster, which somebody brought up the other day. Disney's Hercules, The Land Before... Wow, I've never seen Land Before Time mentioned. Star Trek II, Wrath of Khan, and All Quiet on the Western Front. That's been mentioned a number of times as well. I'm glad it's good to see Pirates of the Caribbean in there, dude. All right, Film Chris writes, one of my most memorable movie theater experiences was the first time I watched Episode 7. When Kylo took his mask off for the first time, someone far in the back screamed, "Ha!" And everybody laughed. I remember to me, and I love that movie, by the way. I love Episode 7, The Force Awakens. I love that movie. Not nearly as much as the original trilogy, but I love that movie nonetheless. I remember, though, he starts to take off his helmet, and then it cuts to another camera angle where the helmet's already off. It kind of looks like he just finished taking it off, and his hair is still perfect. It's like, that was clearly a cut. That was clearly a cut. Because when he pulled that, that's not what his hair would look like if he actually just pulled that helmet off. So it's just funny. He was like, and he starts to take the helmet off, and then camera cut, and he's got this perfectly coiffed hair. You know what I mean? That part still to this day, Film Chris, makes me giggle. That still makes me giggle. All right. Uncharted Halo writes, for the record, I was not trying to justify what-if questions yesterday, just trying to explain why people think they make sense. I hate them too. No, I understood, but you know what? It's been great because it took a couple of weeks, but of me really trying to lay that. Guys, if you're going to start a question with what if, make sure it ends with an actual question, right? It took a couple of weeks of doing that, but I have found for the last couple of months now, everybody gets it. So now when most people start a question with, hey, John, what if this happens? Would that mean this? Like everybody seems now to know to actually, oh yeah, you got to actually include a question. So everybody's caught on to it. So no worried, Uncharted. I totally got you. Don't worry about it, dude. All right. Film Chris writes, I have abandoned my child. I watched There Will Be Blood for the first time yesterday. Everyone at school looked weird at me today because I tried to talk like Daniel Plainview. I love that film. And I'll tell you what, I still stand to this. Daniel Day-Lewis's performance as Daniel Plainview in There Will Be Blood. Not only do I believe it is the best male performance in the last 15 years, I believe you have to give it serious consideration. I'm not saying There Will Be Blood is the greatest movie of all time. Don't get me wrong. But I think Daniel Day-Lewis's performance in that movie, I think there's an argument to me that it might be the greatest performance ever by an actor in a lead role in a motion picture. I think there's an argument to be made for it. I really do. Now, I'm not going to poo-poo on anybody that lists a couple of others instead. That's fine. But I don't know how you can have a serious discussion about the greatest single lead actor performance by an actor in a film ever and not have Daniel Day-Lewis's performance in There Will Be Blood. It's got to be there. And if not absolute number one, then in the top three. At least I would think. It's just got to be a part of the conversation. I love that movie, dude. I'm glad you had a chance to see it. All right. Anthony Cullen writes, I need a movie monologue for a class project. Ideas? It'd be hard pressed to go wrong with one of the. There's a couple of good ones in Braveheart. You'd be hard pressed not to find a good one there. You might want to check that one out. Anthony also writes, also, what do you call it when Batman skips out on church? A Christian Bale. All right, Anthony, I'll give you that one. That one's clever. That one's kind of clever. I've not heard that one before. That one's pretty clever. All right, Brandon Blake writes, I saw an interview with Christian Bale yesterday. Speaking of Christian Bale, I've been watching this guy for years. How did I not know he's British? I know, right? I actually remember because, you know, I like a lot of people, I didn't come to know Christian Bale through Newsies like a lot of people, but where I really took notice of Christian Bale was in American Psycho. Right? And so you see him in American Psycho, and then you see him in Batman and all that kind of stuff. And then you hear him in an interview and you're like, wait, what? What? Like, there are some British, Australian actors that have maybe struggle a little bit with hiding their accent. But I will tell you what, I have sat down and spoken with Christian Bale. And it still throws me off a little bit when I hear him in an interview with his real accent. It still throws me off. He does it so perfectly and so flawlessly that it still throws me off. It absolutely does. Anyway, let's see here. R Squared Games writes, top 10, no order, Aladdin 92. I love it. I think that's the first time Aladdin the animated one was brought up, so I'm glad you did. OG Jurassic Park, Snatch is in my top 10. I love that movie with a deep, abiding love. I love that movie so much. Fight Club, Titanic, Terminator 2, Infinity War, Lord of the Rings trilogy, The Princess Bride, and number 1, The Matrix 1 and 2. So you are with me, R Squared. We are amongst some of the few people that actually liked Matrix 2. Because a lot of people don't like Matrix 2. Now, I wouldn't equate it with Matrix 1 like you do, but I liked Matrix 2, and I know a lot of people don't, but it's interesting to see you were in there with me. All right. That Wrestling Hound writes, just finally got to watch The Boys. love that show. On Prime, and that Gil scene was the most disgusting thing I've seen in my 18 years of life. I thought that scene was really weird. Like, I'll be honest with you. If you guys have heard me talk about The Boys, and I've encouraged everybody to check it out, I love this show. I'm still not sure why that scene is even in the show. I mean, it's disturbing and odd and weird, but in terms of the show, I don't see how that scene served the show. I'm not saying it's a bad scene. I'm just saying, even in hindsight, as I look back on it, and I certainly felt it when I was first watching, it's like, why is this here? Why is this scene here? It's not furthering anything about anything else in the story. It's not really doing anything else. I mean, it's giving us a little bit more thing about how low maybe that character had come, but that didn't play a part in what the overall narrative was, and it wasn't really furthering anything. So to this day, while it was certainly weird and memorable, I'm still not really sure why that scene was left in. But anyway, that's just me. R Squared Games writes, meant to say the first Matrix and Reloaded are my all-time favorite films. Honorable mention, Event Horizon. I'm not a big Event Horizon fan, I'll be honest with you. Coming to America, which you got the sequel coming now, and The Last Dragon. Nice ones. And yeah, I got what you were saying, R-Squared. I totally did. No worries about that. Then he follows up with, regarding intermissions, I'd only be in favor if they were built into the narrative, like in Hateful Eight, not randomly chosen by the theaters. See, no, I disagree. I disagree, because when you're making the movie, look, here's the thing. When you're making your movie, you don't know until the final edit's done. Like, you don't know how your film is really going to be as a whole until the final edit's done. And what, are you supposed, I don't want filmmakers, I just want filmmakers to focus on making their story and making every scene the best scene they can, and not worry about, how do I set up an intermission scene? I don't want filmmakers to think about that. I don't want that to be distracting them and being a part of their thinking. I just think, like, here's a good example. Somebody from India wrote me, because they have intermissions in India, and they don't mind them at all. They think it's great. But somebody from India wrote me, and this is something that they cannot do, and said, like, they were watching Lion King, and literally halfway through Hakuna Matata, halfway through a musical number, the movie stopped. The movie just stopped. An intermission halfway through a musical number. So what I don't think you can allow to happen, because that would be incredible. Like, I'm like, you can take an intermission, that's not disruptive. You stop a movie halfway through a big speech or halfway through a musical number, that's disrupting. What you cannot do is just say at the exact halfway point, no matter what's going on, intermission hits. No, I think each movie, and again, I only support the idea of intermissions if they're for films that are like of an exceeding length. Like, say, movies that are over 2 hours and 40 minutes, or movies that are over 2 hours and 45 minutes. Anything under that, you don't need an intermission. But then I think the studio would need to say, this is a good point for you guys to take an intermission break. And then the theaters build that into it, rather than just saying, okay, well, this is a 2 hour and 10 minute movie. So at the exact 1 hour and 5 minute mark, no matter what's happening in the movie, we will take an intermission. See, you can't do that. That would be disruptive. But at the same time, I don't think it should be built into the movie, because I don't want my filmmakers to be worried about that. I don't want my filmmakers to be distracted by that. Just finish the movie as it is, and then let the studio look at it and say, okay, this is a good point here. If you're going to do intermission, this is a good point at the end of this scene. And maybe it's a little bit before the midway point, maybe it's a little bit after, but I think that's a good way to do it. So anyway, that's me. Willow Yang writes, sorry to pry, but what didn't work for you in Lady Bird? Did you find the story boring or the character too unlikable? Just curious. A little bit of both. Now, look, I'm not one of those people that I need to have all the characters likable. I'm not one of those people. For instance, I'm not expecting that I'm going to like the Joker. I have a feeling I'm not going to like Arthur, right? I don't need to like the character in order to love the movie and understand what role that character is playing in it. But you're right, I didn't find the character particularly likable. I didn't find the mom character particularly likable. I didn't find the relationship between the mom and the daughter particularly interesting. And I found it trogged along at a depressingly awful pace. And nothing in it had anything of redeeming value. But that's just me. Now, I acknowledge, though, and I recognize that a lot of people loved it. And that's great. I'm not trying to poo-poo on anybody else who liked or loved that film. But for me, it was a complete absence of anything good. I found nothing. I didn't find any of the lines funny. I didn't find the characters charming. I certainly didn't find myself wanting to see what this character does next. I mean, but that's just me. All film hits us all in different ways. And Lady Bird didn't hit me the right way. I still recognize that everybody else loved it, and that's great. But yeah, it was just the lack. You know, sometimes you can describe darkness as the lack of light. Why did I find Lady Bird bad? Because it was lacking anything good. But that's just me. That doesn't mean you couldn't find something good in it, and that the majority of people couldn't find something good in it. I recognize that, but I got to be honest, it just didn't work for me. And that's why. Thanks for asking, Willow. All right, next up, Garrison writes, my top recent films in no order are Birdman, love Birdman, Whiplash, Enemy, I like Enemy too, I'm glad you put that in there. No Country for Old Men is fantastic. First time super chat, keep it up, guys, I really enjoy this. So thank you so much, Garrison. First of all, thanks for sharing your love of movies, and thanks for supporting the show, dude. We appreciate it very much. All right, Min writes, I think that only 2 of the main Oscar bait films right now have 100% of Rotten Tomatoes. Honey Boy with 48 reviews and Knives Out with 38 reviews. Yeah, it could be. Look, it's because everybody has such vastly different tastes. That's why it's almost never happens that a movie gets 100%. And I guarantee you, Knives Out will not be at 100% once we get 100, 200, 300 reviews in. Not every movie is for everybody. Films are subjective. They hit us all in different ways, right? So Knives Out isn't going to stay at 100%. I'm sure Honey Boy won't stay at 100%. Very, very, very few movies ever do. Especially the wide release ones that get more than 12 or 15 reviews, right? So I expect that won't be the case for long. It shouldn't be the case. At least I don't think so. Anyway, Min follows up and writes, I got tickets to see Knives Out at TIFF on Saturday. Nice. I'm kind of jealous. Number one, that you're in Toronto. I wish I was home. But also you get to go see Knives Out. That's great. Can't wait. I'll be sure to let you know what I thought, even though I live here in Canada and never been to TIFF. I love the Toronto International Film Festival. Love it. I've not gone to it nearly enough. But I actually thought about going home this September, like this year, to go in so I could go to it, but I just got too busy and I couldn't do it. But I'm a little bit jealous of Min, a little bit jealous. All right, Brandon Blake writes, Face Off, Robert Downey Jr. and Tom Cruise. Hey, that could work. That could work. You got guys in the roughly the same age range. Tom's a little bit shorter, but you can make that up. I mean, Robert Downey Jr. is not a big, tall guy, so it wouldn't be too far off. That wouldn't be a bad one. I still love the idea of Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman, though. That's still my number one pick. All right, Dominic French writes, are DC/Marvel adverse to making new characters? That's come up before. I don't think they're adverse to it, but I think the argument you would run into, because I would love to see Marvel and DC, you know what? Why not make up a new character that's not in the comic books? The argument I could see being made against that right now is that, well, when we've got so many good characters that we've still never even tapped or touched into, why wouldn't we still explore those? And that would probably be an argument. But I wouldn't be surprised if at some point they start making original characters that weren't found in the comic books. At some point, just not anytime soon. Randall Cartwright writes, Return of the King, number 1, Return of the King. So good. Number 2, Hacksaw Ridge. I love it when people mention that one. 3, Jurassic Park. 4, Book of Eli. That's one of the a little more overlooked Denzel Washington films. I didn't love it, but I like Book of Eli. Number 5, the 1990 Ninja Turtles. I think that's the first time I've seen that pop up. Number 6, Inception. Number 7, Jurassic Park. You already said Jurassic Park. And number 3, maybe you mean one of the other ones. Number 8, Hook. Love that you got Hook on there, Randall. Number 9, The Matrix. Number 10, Won't You Be My Neighbor, a documentary, but why the hell not? That documentary is so effing good. I still to this day, look, I get over it pretty quick. Like, this should have been nominated and wasn't. Oh, well, that's the Oscars. No big deal. Not everything that I think should be nominated will be nominated, nor should everything be nominated that I think should be nominated. I get it. That's fine. But here we are a year later. I still don't get how, number 1, I don't get how Won't You Be My Neighbor didn't win best documentary. let alone the fact that it didn't even get nominated. I am, to quote Les Mis, I am agog, I am aghast. Like, I can't believe it. Ugh. Totally can't believe it still. To this day, Randall. You and me both, bro. I'm good to see that on your list, my friend. All right. Timothy Platt writes, the older I get, the more realistic these movies are to me. So I have to ask, which do you think is better? Office Space or Idiocracy? Woo! Yeah, you're right. It does seem like that's more and more. You know what? I got a big kick out of Idiocracy. And more we see our world turning into Idiocracy, which is really too bad. But I still think Office Space is the better film. Office Space to me still holds up. And that's hard for comedies to do. But Office Space to me is still a film. I watched it again with Anne, what was it, like 2 months ago? I think I talked about it on the show maybe. I watched it again for the first time in a little while, and I'm just like, dude, this movie is every bit as smart and brilliant today as it was the day it came out. So yeah, I like Idiocracy very much, but I think Office Space is the better one. That's just me though, Timothy. That's just me. All right, S. Beam writes, Face Off, Bale and Hardy. I've heard a few people suggest that one too. Yep. I too like Jackman and Reynolds. Oh yeah, Jackman and Reynolds to me is instant money in the bank. Everyone will go see a Face Off reboot with Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds. Yeah, make it work. But I gotta say, S-Beam, I wouldn't be adverse to Bale Hardy either. I mean, that would also be a really dynamic duo as well. Slim Trav writes, thoughts on The Commended with Steve Austin? Oh, The Condemned. Oh, that movie was so cheesy. I mean, if I'm thinking the right one, basically it's Hunger Games. It's basically Hunger Games. Let me just bring it up here. Condemned. There we go, The Condemned. And I believe Vinnie Jones was in it too. Hold on a second. Let me just bring up the page here. It was directed by Scott Weiper, who I've never heard of, to be honest with you. I don't know what else he's done. But yeah, it was with Vinnie Jones as well. And Manu Bennett was in it. I had no idea Manu Bennett was in it. I totally didn't realize that. Anyway, so it's basically... it's basically Hunger Games. These guys are thrown on an island. It's a television show, so a little bit like Running Man, fight to the death, blah, 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 blah. It's got some great one-liners. Not a great movie. I mean, let's be honest, not a great movie. By the way, Steve Austin's got a new TV show where it's him, just every episode he's got a different celebrity on, and he does some crazy stuff with them. I'm telling you what, I love Steve Austin. I think this guy is such a naturally entertaining presence on screen, whether it's in a wrestling ring or him doing a talk show. Like, seriously, my buddy Ryan introduced me to the show, and he was over the other night, and he popped it on as me, Ann, and Ryan just watched like I think there's 3 or 4 episodes up right now. One episode had Riggle was on it. Another episode had one of the guys from Impractical Jokers. Then he had Baker Mayfield on it. And then who was the other person he had on? I can't remember now. But he just does crazy stuff with them, and it's great. You should check it out if you haven't had a chance. It's really, really fun. All right, Ryan Lohner writes, Antonio's not working out, so please welcome the Patriots' new player, Tyrese. Oh, I'm not going to get drawn into that, Ryan. No way. I'm not taking the bait. But oh my, can I just mention though again how disappointed I am as a New England Patriots fan, as a guy who has been a New England Patriots fan probably longer than some of you watching the show have been alive. How utterly disappointed I am in that team for signing Antonio the Clown Brown. I know he's a great receiver. I know, but at some point, there has to be some line that is like, you know what? You're such a bad person that it doesn't matter that you're a great receiver. We just don't want to be associated with you. That's got to come into play at some point. And you know, I'll keep my fingers crossed that Darth Belichick is going to be able to come in here and bend him to his will and make him straighten out. I'll keep hope alive that he can do that, but I am tremendously disappointed in my own team that they would go out and get a jackass like that. Like, seriously. But here's hoping it works out. I don't think it will. I don't think he's going to still be a Patriot by week 5. I think by week 5, I don't think he's going to be a Patriot anymore, but we'll see. Hopefully I'm wrong. All right, Chris Feldman writes, Regarding movie monologues, 3 of my favorites are Andrew Shepard at the end of The American President, and I am the President of the United States. That was a great one. That's a really good one. Quint's Indianapolis speech in Jaws. So many men went in the water. Only so many came out. That's, seriously, that is one of the great scenes ever. And one of the best scenes of the movie, and had nothing to do with the shark. They're just sitting around, 3 guys in a boat, this guy's telling a story, and it just rivets you. It's unbelievable. And Jules citing his favorite Bible verse in Pulp Fiction. That's great. Very sharp picks there, Chris. Very, very sharp picks. I love all those ones. All right, let's see here. Louis Pello writes, top 10, Interstellar, Signs, McLintock? I'm not familiar with that one off the top of my head. If I look it up, I'll probably know it, but I don't know that one off the top of my head. Clockwork Orange, Inception, District 9. I think that's the first time District 9 has been mentioned. The Fighter, which has been mentioned a couple times. Arrival, another Denis Villeneuve film. Boondock Saints, which I've always lamented we never got a third. That's the first time Revenge of the Nerds has been listed as well. Nerds. What a great movie that was. I still remember the first time I watched it. I was much younger, obviously. I was a kid, but Revenge of the Nerds, man. Thanks for sharing that, Louis. All right, Orlando Rodriguez writes, my face-off pick is Sam Jackson and Denzel Washington. Can you imagine Denzel... Actually, you know what? Can you imagine Denzel doing a Sam Jackson impersonation? Say what again, motherfucker? I dare you. Oh, my God. And imagine seeing Samuel Jackson doing Denzel Washington. I wouldn't have thought that off the top of my own head, Orlando, but you're right. By the way, just a side note, I've been watching Ballers. I've never watched Ballers. That's the Dwayne Johnson show on HBO. So I started season 1 like a couple of weeks ago. I'm on season 2 right now. Holy crap. Like the first time I ever saw John David Washington was in Black Klansman. I never watched Ballers, so I never saw him before. But watching Ballers, if you close your eyes... you would be forgiven if you thought that was Denzel on screen talking. Like, serious. If you close your eyes and just listen to John David Washington speak, you would totally be forgiven if you got fooled into thinking it was his dad talking. Like, unbelievable. Unbelievable. How much he sounds like his dad, which is a great thing. When your dad's Denzel Washington, sounding just like your dad is a great thing. And I'm telling you, I am becoming a big John David Washington fan. Loved him in Black Klansman. I'm really liking him in Ballers, and he's got that little Christopher Nolan movie coming up, Tenet. I can't wait to see him in that too. All right, Mark Badolato writes, hey, John, yesterday you spoke about A-List, but does AMC have to pay the difference on Discount Tuesdays when reward points take money off a ticket? I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that when reward points are used to discount a ticket, I still believe the theater still needs to pay out whatever the regular ticket price is for that particular thing. And if it's a Tuesday, like say they do a $7 Tuesday, I don't think they have to pay to the studios as if it was a $17 ticket. I think they can still pay it out like it's a regular, the regular price. So, but yeah, I think if I got $5 off a $15 ticket for my loyalty rewards points, I think AMC still has to pay out to the theater as if it was the full price of the ticket. Now with A-List, they count the full price as a ticket as being $9. So I mean they've worked that out, so that's fine. But I think if you use reward points to reduce the cost of a ticket, I think they pay out to the theater as if it was, or pay out to the studios as if it was the full price. I could be wrong about that, but I think that's what it is. Anyway, interesting question, Mark. Thanks for bringing that up. All right, Martin Molina writes, regret renting The Dead Don't Die. Did you see it? You know, I don't think I ever got around to watching it. With Adam Driver, Bill Murray. I remember looking at the trailers and thinking, oh my God, this is going to be one of the best films ever. And then then some early screenings happened and I started hearing some not so great things. As a matter of fact, where did it end up? Let me bring up here. Dead Don't Die, Rotten. So where did this finish off as far as a critic rating goes? It finished off at Not great either, the critic or the audience score. The verified audience score is 38%. The verified critic score, 54%. I mean, yeah, not good. So I started hearing all these negative things, and I just remember thinking, it's going to break my heart if I watch this film and don't like it. So I'm just going to take a pass. So I don't think I ever got around to watching it. So you're not the first person, Martin, to say you regretted it. All right, Ben Davis writes, my top 10. Number 1, Star Wars Saga. Absolutely. Number 2, Fight Club. Number 3, Lord of the Rings trilogy. Number 4, The Dark Knight. Number 5, Inception. Number 6, Titanic. Good to see Titanic on there. It's really popular poo-poo on Titanic. Sorry, Titanic's a pretty freaking awesome movie. Anyway, number 7, Man of Steel. Always makes my heart smile, Ben, when I see Man of Steel on there. The Matrix. Number 9, Good Will Hunting. Number 10, Signs. I love Signs other than the very end with the water thing. That was dumb. HM, Jaws, honorable mention, Jaws and Terminator 2, 2 great classics. Nice list. You got it mixed up there. Comic book film, Oscar winners, sci-fi, really nice mix in there, Ben Davis. Like your list, man. Thanks for sharing it, dude. All right. John Keeley sends in a really big super chat. Thank you for supporting the channel on that level, John. I appreciate it, man. All right. Greetings and salutations to everyone from Scotland. Longtime viewer from the very early Schnepp days. RIP, big man. But first time super chat. And with today being my 50th birthday, I just thought I'd stop by and say hello. Well, seriously, John, first of all, thanks for being around that long. And yeah, I mean, we always, Schnepp still comes up all the time. I mean, he was one of the best. So it's great that you've been around that long, dude. And happy birthday to you, sir. May you have a not only fabulous day, but a fabulous year ahead of you. And dude, hey, thanks for writing in and bringing it up. And thank you for supporting the channel. And thanks for being a supporter of our content for so many years, man. I really appreciate it. And I hope you have a fabulous day, sir. And I hope we have you around for many more years to come here on the show. So thanks a lot for that, man. Have a great day. All right. Night Furious writes, my top 10 in no particular order: 12 Angry Men, Back to the Future, Casablanca, Citizen Kane, The Godfather, The Graduate. I don't know if anybody's mentioned The Graduate yet or not. That's a good one. Eternal Sunshine. I'm surprised Eternal Sunshine doesn't come up more. That's one I would expect to see The Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind to come up more, but it doesn't. So it's cool to see that there. Passion of Joan of Arc, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Sunrise, Song of Two Hunters. I do not believe I'm familiar with Sunrise. Let me just look that up quick. Sunrise, Song of Two, Humans, not Hunters. Song of Two Humans. It is a 1927 film. I am not familiar with it. I am not familiar with that one. I might have to put that one on my later. Thank you for sharing that list. Again, a nice mix of films in there, dude. All right. Jeremy Sneed writes, been catching up on shows after Disneyland trip last week. I hope you had a good time, man. So forgive me if I missed it. However, have you guys watched Carnival Row on Amazon Prime? And we have talked about that. I have watched the first episode. I did not love the first episode, but I am intrigued by it. I didn't dislike it. So I liked it enough that I'm going to watch the second episode. Now, clearly, I didn't like it enough that I immediately had to start watching the next episode, because it's been about a week since I watched episode 1. But I liked it enough that I do plan on watching at least a couple more episodes. Now, it's good enough that I'm going to give it a couple more episodes. If it doesn't get any better in the next 2 episodes, I might tap out on it. But like I said, first episode was intriguing enough that I'm going to give it a few more a shot, and I'm going to see how it goes. Rob has seen it. He likes it. Rob likes it. So I enjoyed it to a degree, the first one. I think there's a lot of potential there. So I'm going to keep going, see what I think about it. So thanks for asking about it, Jane. I hope you had a great time at Disneyland, man. All right. Alex Perez writes, top movies: Power Rangers 1995. Really? I have not heard that one, and I wouldn't think it, but there it is. Dark Knight, Hercules 1997, John Wick 3, Casino Royale, Molly's Game. Thank you for putting that in there. Jessica Chastain is fabulous in that. It was the directorial debut of why am I freezing on the writer of The West Wing? Why am I freezing on his name? I got to bring it. Aaron Sorkin. How can I freeze? It was Aaron Sorkin's directorial debut. I thought that movie, I believe, did not get nominated for Best Picture. And I really felt it should have been nominated. Not necessarily win, but I really thought Molly's Game should have been nominated. I love that movie. Anyway, Crazy Stupid Love, another underrated film. I love that thing. Christmas with the Cranks, really? Wouldn't have thought of that one. Family Man and Back to the Future. Dude, very mixed list there. I love seeing when it's not a homogenized list. I like seeing lists that has a lot of diversity in it, and you definitely got a lot of different types of movies in there, man. Thanks for sharing your list, dude. All right, let's see here. Vincent Vasquez writes, hey, John and crew, love the show. Thank you so much, Vincent. 2 questions. Have you seen Peanut Butter Falcon? Nope, still haven't watched it. I've just been that is the one film that I've still not yet seen. And I just haven't had the opportunity anyway. You really should. Hearing nothing but good things about it, Vincent. I've been hearing nothing but good things about it. Also, thoughts on Barry Season 2, one of my favorite shows ever. I really did enjoy Season 2, but in particular, it was, the episode. The one with the martial arts guy and his daughter. That is one of the most brilliant episodes of television comedy I have maybe ever seen. It was instantly, I watched it and I'm like, this is instantly a top 10 best comedy show episode ever. And Barry is more than just a comedy, obviously, but I mean, and the rest of the season was good. I don't think season 2 was as good as season 1. But that one episode, oh my God, that will live with me for a long time. All right, Chris Warden writes, so I just learned that Ready or Not is in fact not a Margot Robbie movie, LOL, hashtag mind blown. I'll tell you what, I still remember when I found that out because I saw the trailer for it. It's like, oh, that cool little Margot Robbie movie, Ready or Not, that looks really good. And then I found out a little while later, wait a minute, that's what? Get out of here. When somebody told me that's not Margot Robbie, I'm like, really? And I watched it again, it's like, maybe it's not? And I look it up on IMDb, oh my God, that's not Margot Robbie. Holy crap. I know, right? So you can be totally forgiven for that. All right, guys, listen. I've only got about 15 minutes left here. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to spend the next 15 minutes and I'm going to take the questions from the guys who have sent in really generous super chats here, just because I want to make sure I get through those live ones. But for everybody else, Orange Hand, Kyle, Brian, all your questions, do not worry. They're going to get answered in the companion video later today, where I'm also going to do today's and yesterday's that I didn't get a chance to get around to. So we're going to start that later on the companion video with you, Orange Hand, and your question. I'll just do yours right now because it's so short. Do you think Lord of the Rings show will simply be called Lord of the Rings? It might be. I'll give it a 50% chance because it's easy. It's a very recognizable brand name. You don't have to call it Lord of the Rings hyphen something other, because that's what the movies are. Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring. Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. So you can just call this Lord of the Rings. It's a good marketing idea. All right. So we'll come back in the companion video. We'll lead off with Kyle. So we're going to go over right now to Ralph Rashia, who writes, hey, John, in the D23 footage, we see Imperial Star Destroyers. Hold on a second. Sorry, I don't mean to do this. My wife is away. My wife is in Orlando this week for work. So she just sent me a text. So I'm sorry. I stop what I'm doing when my wife sends me a text so I can see what she's up to. And she has sent you, I know you're not going to be able to see it. She has just sent me a picture of herself sitting on a big Hasbro throne in Orlando. You can't see it, but my wife decided to send me a picture with a giant crown on the top of her in Orlando, enjoying Orlando. So yes, she just wanted to remind me of that. That's all. She's just being friendly, reminding me that she's in Orlando, Florida right now, doing some work for Hasbro. Anyway, getting back to your question, Ralph, the D23 footage, we see Imperial Star Destroyers, if true, that they are in the unknown regions, which we don't know. Then over under 30% that Grand Admiral Thrawn is in command. I mean, I don't think the timing of it works. So I don't think, I'm going to take under 30%, but you know what? It ain't zero. By the way, there's the picture Anne sent of herself sitting on the throne. looking all OG. She's got that look on her face like she's all OG. Anyway, royalty, honey, you're royalty if she's watching right now. It's possible. I don't know how you keep Grand Admiral Thrawn under wraps. And remember, when you understand the age of the character at this point, I don't know. So I'm going to say it's possible, but I'll take under 30%. But it's definitely could be a thing. It could be, Ralph. All I know is that seeing those Star Destroyers was awesome. I loved seeing those Star Destroyers. Let's see if they make use of them in the movie or not. All right. Let's see. Joel Gutierrez writes, with movies having assigned seating, I've seen baby boomers having issues with it where they get upset that they have to move because they're in someone's assigned seat. Have you seen this issue as well? I have seen it once or twice where, and actually I'm shocked I haven't seen it happen more often, but I've seen it happen once or twice where somebody comes in and goes, oh, excuse me, I think you're sitting in my seat. But in the couple of times I've seen it, the people have usually been pretty reasonable. I think it's always been pretty reasonable. Like usually the couple times I've seen it's like, oh, hey, I think you're in our seat. This is L5 and 6, right? And then people would either pull out their ticket or open their phone app and go, oh, sorry about that. Sorry, we're in M, not L. Sorry, we're in the wrong row. It's usually been handled pretty politely. I've personally, like, I'm sure it has been an issue somewhere, sometime, but I got to say, my experience with it has been, it's never been a problem. It's usually, first of all, I hardly ever see it being an issue, but then the couple of times I have, it's never been a big deal. People go, oh, you're right, we're in the wrong seats. And they just got up and moved and everything's good. So, I mean, I've heard stories of it not being handled so smoothly, but for the most part, I think it's actually been pretty good, Joel. Okay. Next up, where was Joel? That was Joel. Next up here, okay, PND writes, how does the Regal and AMC Unlimited Pass affect box office numbers? Okay, just so you know, PND, and it's cool, you probably didn't see yesterday's show. We actually did an entire segment on yesterday's show addressing this exact question. I kid you not, it was an entire main topic on yesterday's show, but you clearly weren't here. So how does the Regal and AMC Unlimited Pass affect box office numbers? How do they track what movie you see and decide what movie gets that part of your $20 a month? Okay, so here's the basic gist of it, PND. I'll just summarize it quickly without explaining it in 7 minutes again. When you use AMC A-List to buy a ticket, right? What AMC does is it counts you. Let's say I'm going to go see Hustlers tonight, which I am. I'm going to go see Hustlers tonight, and I use my A-List to buy it. So I used my app to buy a ticket to Hustlers, and I used AMC A-List to cover it. So now AMC knows I bought a ticket for Hustlers. What AMC does is they count that as a $9 movie ticket purchase. It counts as a 9, maybe it's 10, but I think it's 9. Anyway, $9 or $10 movie ticket purchase. And then for accounting purposes, that's how they report it, and that's how they remit money back to the studios. So like with everything else, when a movie takes in, like say, a $15 movie ticket, well, at least 10 of those dollars goes back to the studios, and AMC only gets to keep like a third of it. So when they sell a $15 movie ticket, they have to send $10 off to the movie studios, and it counts for box office as a $15 movie ticket purchase. When you buy a ticket with A-List, and you use A-List to get a movie ticket, AMC counts that as a $9 movie ticket purchase. So they have to send $6 back to they send $6 to the studio, roughly. This isn't exact. I'm just giving you rough general rule of thumb numbers here, okay? They send $6 to the studio, and it's reported box office wise as a $9, which I believe is the national average, or really close to the national average of a movie ticket cost. They report it as a $9 ticket purchase for a movie, and that's how it counts towards the box office. That's how it counts towards remitting money back to the studios, and how they count it towards the box office. It counts as a regular $9 movie ticket purchase. And if you're wondering, well, how can AMC stay in business if every time you use a free ticket, they got to send $6 to the movie studios? The movie theater makes up for it with all the money you spend at the concession stands. So it works out for everybody. Anyway, if you want a more longer in detail description, go to yesterday's show. That's where we had it. Anyway, thanks for asking, PND. All right, next up, and I think this might be the last one of the day, and it is. The last question of the day today comes to us from Abdul Alonso, who writes, hey guys, my top 10 comic book movies are number 1, The Dark Knight, number 2, Logan, number 3, Spider-Man 2, number 4, The Dark Knight Rises. I'm not a huge fan of Dark Knight Rises, to be honest. I like it. I'm just not a huge fan of it. Number 5, Batman Begins. Number 6, Spider-Man, probably the original Spider-Man. Number 7, Winter Soldier. Number 8, Civil War. Number 9, Man of Steel. Again, always makes my heart smile, Abdul, when I see somebody putting Man of Steel in top 10, most underrated comic book film of all time. And number 10, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. A nice list there. You got a number of my order is different, but you got a number of in here that are in my top 10. Dark Knight, Logan, Spider-Man 2. I don't have Dark Knight Rises or Batman Begins in mind. I don't have the original Spider-Man in mind. Winter Soldier, Civil War, Man of Steel, and Spider-Verse. Those are all my top 10 as well. So I like your list, dude. I like your list. All right, guys. For everybody else, including Tom Weinberg, Lone Wolf X6, everybody else who had questions still left over, do not worry. I'm going to do a companion video. I know I didn't get around to doing yesterday's. I'm sorry. Time just got away from me. But all the stuff from yesterday and today, one big companion video a little bit later today. Keep your eyes open. Your questions are getting answered in another video today. All right, guys. That'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Just so you know, we, of course, will be back again tomorrow. It's going to be me and Robert Meyer Burnett. We're going to be talking about a few issues that are going to come up today. We're also going to be taking more of your live questions tomorrow. Make sure you guys plan on joining us then. Guys, thank all of you for being here, for being a part of the film fan community, for talking movies, all that kind of stuff. Thank you to all of you who sent in questions, not just because you gave us great fun things to talk about, but you supported the channel along the way while you guys were doing it. Want to remind all of you who are my Patreon supporters, tomorrow, keep your eyes open, because tomorrow the early invites go out for our brand new The John Campea Show Discord server, which a lot of you guys have been asking for like a year for us to launch. So we're launching our Discord server, a soft launch tomorrow exclusively for our Patreon supporters, and you guys are going to have that Discord server to yourselves for a few days, maybe even a full week before we send out the wide invite to everybody else. So keep your guys, for those of you who are Patreon supporters, keep your eyes open for those invites, and please, when you get it, jump into that Discord server and start putting it through its paces, because we want to work out any bugs that might be in there before we let everybody else in as well. All right, guys, that will do it for me for now. Thank you so much for being here, guys. My name is John Campea, and until next time, put your hand up my shirt just above the bra.